motherfucker.
Hold up. Are we on Hold Up, a movie podcast? It's been a while. It has been a while. But we're back. We're back, and, well, Murphy's in a black toque. We're all wearing toques because this is the Canada bracket Ontario episode. It started off as the Canada episode, but now we're just going to do a whole Canada series. And strangely enough, these ones all happen to be Ontario. Just, it's an odds thing, really. I mean,
serendipity.
Mm-hmm. But we're back. We're happy to be back. We're going to review 3 films about Canada, but mostly Ontario in this particular episode. We've got, but who are we? I'm one of your hosts, Davin. Of course, with me as always is World Mind. We're happy to be back, aren't we, World Mind?
That we are, good buddy. How are you now?
Oh, not bad. It's a little chilly out, so the toque actually worked.
Yeah, no, it's we haven't quite beat the grips of winter, but we're blooming into the ages of spring, and you know that's a common theme in Canada. Seasons changing, and there's a lot of seasonal changing that happened throughout these movies, in tone and style, if you will. So you know, I'm looking forward to tapping these Canadian goods and sampling the maple that is within them with our very special guest, Jessica Chan. Jessica Chan.
Hello.
Jessica,
nice.
Thanks for
Raspiness.
joining us. Is this the first time you've been on this show, Jessica?
Yes.
Well, in that case, we have a segment.
Oh.
What's with you in movies?
Origin stories.
No.
Yep,
God,
exactly.
I was just thinking
What's
in
with
one of the
you
movies.
in movies?
If I was asked what's my favorite movie, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna panic.
I'm not asking you that. We're asking you what's with you in movies.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You
what does
tell
that
us.
mean?
What's with you in
I
movies?
don't know. What does that mean?
Whatever you want it to mean. What's with you in movies?
Movies are vehicles
like
for buttered popcorn.
Yeah.
That's what's with me in movies. That's
what compels Jessica Chan to watch a movie?
Buttered popcorn.
What is you know, generally what you know, what's with you in movies? Like, what was like your first movie experience? What was your sort of history with movies? When did you fall in love with movies?
What's got your mojo movie going, you know?
Okay. The earliest one I can remember, like, stand out. Like, obviously I probably went to movies before this, because like I remember when, because now I'm like super old. Do you guys remember when like they still had the curtains, and like they would be like they would open and then they would play the trailers and then close and then they would play the movie?
Yep.
I remember that. So I know obviously I went to the movies before, but the like earliest one I can remember, the best like movie going experience was I went to see the re-release of A New Hope. Like when, I mean, now I know retroactively that he screwed with it and it's terrible. It's much worse than the original. But I didn't know that at the time because I was like 10. And I must have seen it on opening night, I guess, with my family. And like when the Death Star exploded, everyone in the audience like stood up and cheered. And it was like, it was so mind blowing. I was like, this is amazing. And I went home that night and I watched the other 2 films right away.
Very good.
So good. That was like the best, my earliest movie going experience.
That's a good origin story.
I heard you're married to a Starfleet officer. Is this true?
Not yet. It's not the 31st century yet, right?
So. I heard she's married to a naked locker room guy.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Also very Canadian man. Like very Canadian naked locker room guy.
Oh, we get naked in our locker rooms up here in the Great White North. I mean, they're well heated. Usually.
They have to be. They have to be.
It'd be quite embarrassing if they weren't, wouldn't
it? It'd be a strange brew, if anything.
Oh my God, Michael just
speaking of
taking us off the rails again.
That's what he does. That's fine. That's why we love him. That's what we do on all of my shows.
Get kinky with it.
We get off the rails with it. Theater one. Strange Brew from 1983, starring Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Paul Dooley, and Auburn Tain himself, Lynn Griffin, and Max von Sydow. Directed by Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. So in the movie, Dave Thomas is just the director. But
Yeah. I mean, even the movie starts open with them, directing the film basically.
Yeah. It's like very meta. It was meta because I guess that was meta before it was meta, kind of.
Yeah.
Such a
okay. I know. I don't know about you guys, but like, I briefly remember this film as a kid. I specifically remember the ending scene with Rick Moranis. And for whatever reason, I thought the guy that played Rosie was the villain. So when I went into seeing this film again, I was expecting that to be the case, but he in fact was not. So it was
the hero.
Yeah, it was like, oh, wow, that's what I get for trying to remember things as a kid. But I wanted to know if you guys remember seeing the trailer for this film at all.
I wasn't born yet. I was born the very next year.
I was born 3 years after.
No, 86, before my time.
Let's check this out.
Somewhere, behind granite battlements, beyond impenetrable gates, indoors, something evil is brewing, and it isn't Elsinore beer. Here, an unsuspecting heiress has become the innocent pawn of a diabolical genius. At his command, space-age super lasers that can incinerate an entire metropolis.
The effects in the show. Good Lord.
Deadly hockey
This movie is listed as a sci-fi, though, a comedy sci-fi.
Oh, is it really?
Just one more test, and then we are ready for the world.
What fool dares stand in his way?
Good day, I'm Bob McKenzie. This is my brother Doug. How's it going, eh?
The Call of the Noble Louis.
At last, television's Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis have just hit the great white screen. These are the adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie, Strange Brew.
That's private company business.
Perhaps one of these would refresh your memory, eh?
The gallant champions of truth.
He's lying, all right. I don't need no machine to tell me that, eh? I didn't do it, I swear. It must be them.
Justice.
I think it's time the little lady and I had a chat.
And the pursuit of bad guys.
We will move towards Oktoberfest as planned.
I can't believe it. He drank it all.
Oh, no!
And I will not underestimate our little friends again.
With Max von Sydow.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Paul Dooley.
You murdered him first, and he was already dead when I killed him.
Lynn Griffin.
If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you.
And an all-star cast.
Take off, you boy. You take off, you nut. Okay.
Don't miss the biggest, the grandest, the first Mackenzie Brothers movie of all time. The Adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
That's it. We're leaving, kids.
Strange Brew.
You hoser, they wanted to see our movie, now they're mad at us. Take off. It's only a preview, eh? I didn't want to show them the best part. Okay, so that's our topic for today. So good day.
I didn't want to show him the best part. That trailer literally showed all the best parts.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, they gave it all away.
I think that trailer made me laugh more than the movie did, to be honest.
What?
Well, we'll talk about it.
The trailer's far better editedly paced and does make the film much more entertaining seeming.
Yeah, I would agree. But why did you pick Strange Brew, Jessica?
I can't remember. I think I gave you a list of like movies that I thought were more niche, less well known, less talked about, and this was the one of them. So that's it's one of my favorites. One of the ones that I like still quote with my family, although like my family quotes things and they're not like, you know, like hasta la vista, I'll be back. Like the obvious quotes, just random ones. And this one from this movie is for some reason the scene with the cafeteria. He's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have drank all that chocolate milk." My family still says that every time one of us is like feeling nauseous or we overeat. Like, "Oh, I shouldn't have had all that chocolate milk." I don't know. Yeah, it's one of like childhood movies that I remember very fondly and made me laugh a lot, and it still kind of did. So
that scene very much made me like, oh,
4 months old. Ugh.
just like 4 months old milk, unrefrigerated, just like.
I think the sandwiches were worse for me. He's like, "Oh, is that tuna?"
I didn't even think about it.
Oh,
good lord.
Well, I guess my opening thoughts on this film were, I just think I enjoy the Bob and Doug McKenzie thing more on SCTV. And I think it's just because it's shorter, maybe, because I think the thing about the Bob and Doug McKenzie thing is the humor is it's just them doing that impression of the, like, I don't know, I guess it's like the Northern Ontario accent. I would call it.
I guess
like, I don't know where people talk like that, but it's not in Nova Scotia. I'll tell you that.
So when I was looking at this film for this, just I was like, where did this? Because I never really, I'm too young for SCTV, so I mean I know some of the skits. So I was like looking up the origin, and I love finding out where it came from. So apparently, SCTV was running for 2 years, and I guess they got picked up or they moved to the CBC, and then they were also broadcasting in the US, but because the US and Canada had different laws on timing of commercials, there was like 2 minutes of extra airtime in Canada versus the States. So they needed filler. And CBC was like, well, since we need filler, we would like you to make it very like Canadian content. So like to with our broadcasting laws. And they were like outraged by this. Like Dave Thomas was like, "We're a Canadian show. We're all Canadian. We've been filming in Canada for 2 years. What do you mean Canadian content?" So they like basically made their little filler skits like the parody of what Americans always accuse Canadians of sounding like.
That's funny.
And apparently, like, Hoser is not documented anywhere before them. I thought they had just like. No, I think they invented this.
I've never heard anyone say it except in reference.
Did they invent Hoser?
Well, they don't have any documented cases, and all of the origin stories are very much like internet urban myths about where Hoser came from. So maybe it pre-exists them, but like, yeah, the whole thing is just a parody.
Hosehead, because they say that sometimes too. They call each other Hosehead.
So yeah, apparently that.
Short of that.
I think there was apparently like a term in the 70s like hose bag, your hose bag, so like it could be like that, but they're the first document. So yeah, it's all like a joke on what people always accuse Canadians of being, and they used to film them at the end. And it would be just them talking. They would just improv the whole thing, and they said they would do like 10 skits, and like some of them were crap and then some of them were good, and those would be the filler. But they got popular enough that they started actually putting them in the American show too, and they actually got really popular there. So
like they say A after every sentence.
I know. It always drives me nuts about Americans. I'm like, there's a purpose. Like, there's a grammatical purpose to A. You don't just like tack it on to the end of everything. It's like right? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's really pouring rain out there, eh? Like, there's no purpose to it.
It's like, give me some acknowledgement of what I just said. That's
yes. Saying something you should agree with.
So if you think if you think Canadians say A lot, maybe you're not listening.
A.
I used to, as a Canadian that lived in the States as a kid for 4 years, I went down there for my mom's work. I got it all the time. It would drive me nuts. Oh, you're from Canada? A.
A boot.
Nuts. A boot.
Nobody says that either.
So I wanted to put it out there, Jessica, if you could, tell us from beginning to end in a brief summary how the story of Bob and Doug McKenzie's Strange Brew goes.
Like with spoilers, like the whole thing.
Walk us through it in a brief summary. It's not a scene by scene thing, but I usually break it down into how does it start, what's the middle, how does it end.
So it starts with them already having made a movie that goes very badly, and everyone wants a refund. which I thought, honestly, I was really impressed with the special effects they could come up with. Like, I don't know, the lowering of the car on the car lifts, I thought that was brilliant. But
They're giving refunds in the alley.
yeah, so they have to give their dad's beer money. Their dad, voiced by Mel LeBlanc of like all cartoon fame.
Was it really?
Mhm.
Wow.
Mel Blanc? No, Mel Blanc, not LeBlanc.
Yeah, Mel Blanc.
Fucking Canadian mode. Mel Blanc. So yeah, they give away their dad's beer money because they feel bad because some kids saved up their allowance for weeks to go see the movie. So they gave away their dad's beer money, so they have to go buy their dad beer with no money. So they bring a mouse in a bottle to the beer store to try and, which was so funny because like that you had to, in Ontario at the time, it was still like prohibition license. Like you had to fill out a form to buy beer. Like they still kept track of everyone at the time. Yeah, it was still like a remnant of prohibition. They had to like take your name, like you bought what. That's why it was like in the back. It was still very prohibition-y in the 80s. I think.
I remember that briefly because I'm like when I was younger, my biological father is from like Petawawa, Ontario, and all that stuff, and I would like go from Nova Scotia to visit him like every couple weeks or something in the summer. And I remember specifically going with him and my grandfather to basically the beer store and them having to order beer and it come out from the back, and I'm being from Nova Scotia where we just like walk into the fridge and grab it ourselves. I was like, what the fuck is this? What's going on? When I'm 12 years old, I was like, all right, cool, interesting store, weird, didn't think much of it.
We just paid $1 billion for Doug Ford to finally put beer in like corner stores and stuff in the year 2025. So behind the times here.
Well, we don't have it in convenience stores here. Still.
Yeah, gas stations and convenience stores, I guess. We had it in a limited amount at grocery stores, but now I think everybody can have it. So still,
just the old liquor.
Only took 50 years at $1 billion to break our beer contract store. Anyway, so the beer store's having none of it, so they send them to the brewery. So they decide to go to the brewery, and then stumble upon a dastardly plot just by pure dumb coincidence, which is pretty much them the entire film. To manufacture a mind control beer to make you play hockey. I
assumed it was just to make you more violent.
Yeah,
to control you with a hockey organ.
I just want to point out the redundancy of making mind control beer to make people more violent.
Yeah, well, they could have just put rum in it.
Yeah, they could have just like spiced it up with a touch more alcohol, and maybe that's all it really is. I don't know.
Well, I guess they were trying to control it. So, like in the thing, they were like, "Oh, we can make the black players fight the white player in gear, not ethnicity."
You know what? I'm starting to see a societal dichotomy here. Perhaps that's what Vax von Sydow was trying to get at.
Well, he is German. I was like, oh man, of course he's an evil German scientist. Of course.
I didn't do the shit on himself though. He was just there like.
I know. I was like, you're drinking that yourself, dude.
Yeah.
With the pet, I was like. I don't think that's a good idea.
That's why he has all these evil machinations. He's just like, I've been drinking so much of this anger beer. Now I just want to take over the world.
I guess it was like, maybe it was just mind control beer. But they killed the owner of Elsinore beer, which I was like, what is that, like
John
Molson
Elsinore,
and
I believe.
Pilsner, like mashed together? I don't know. Elsinore beer, which is just Casa Loma for some reason.
It's like there's the Castle Elsinore next to the Brew Factory Elsinore next to the Canadian Mental Society Institute, also called Elsinore,
because famously rich people always love building their very fancy houses next to dirty, disgusting industrial buildings. That's always how it goes down.
That's Toronto, baby.
Go. So they stumble upon this plot where the original owner has been obviously murdered, and then by his brother, who's I guess working with this German scientist. The brother then marries the widow.
How did they say he died again though? Like
he electrocuted himself on the set.
That's it. electrocution.
Yeah, he electrocuted himself on the fence.
Because that
He
is
wasn't...
famously leaves the same marks as strangulation, which I think in the movie they show who's strangled to death. So not a great vote of confidence for our Toronto police there.
But beautifully edited evidence footage, clearly.
Yeah.
No jump cuts.
Great, look, check out those special effects, eh?
Hey.
Then yeah, so they were trying to convince the daughter who inherited the controlling interest to sell her shares so they could manufacture this mind control beer, but they're all thwarted by Bob and Doug, who just stumble around, and also an ex-hockey player and the daughter.
Ross Rosie, I believe his name.
Rosie, yeah. So they were experimenting on asylum patients, which are conveniently right next to the brewery and the castle, to make them play hockey, controlling them via organ music at a hockey game. And then they were going to release said mind control beer at Oktoberfest in Kitchener to begin their world domination in Kitchener.
Did we hit any favorite scenes yet?
My favorite scene?
We're getting there.
Yeah, so they basically try to frame Bob and Doug for killing the brewery manager and the daughter.
Yeah, kidnapping the daughter, I believe, and then they end up putting the daughter like deep in the facilities.
Yeah,
this is about whereabouts where my favorite scene comes in, because they end up meeting this like defense lawyer, and they have to go to court. And hands down, the one scene I laughed so much was this scene where like the defense lawyer just starts beating up these reporters.
Oh
yeah, I
forgot about that part.
It's the press. I'll handle it.
They're like ready for it. They're not surprised.
It's the press. I'll handle it.
That's how you handle the press. Come on.
Oh, she's ready.
We're late. Let's go.
Remind me to pay his bill on time, eh?
Yeah. Chuck North for the defense, eh? Beauties.
I agree. That's the best scene in the movie. It's just I picked the line that made me chuckle.
It definitely had the air of like Airplane, like that era of comedy where just random crazy crap would just happen. So good.
But like, I'm sure there's a ton of lawyers that would love to just unload on like reporters like that.
Could you imagine if Matt Murdock just started cracking people as soon as he's walking out?
He could though. He had that. That explains the skills, the dual skills. He must have been a lawyer in Canada before he started practicing in New York.
Cut his teeth up here. I'll handle. That's how you handle the press.
Very progressive for the 80s too. He did not hold back on that woman.
No, he did not hold back. He gave her a spinning back fist, 2 overhand rights, a couple pummels. Like
to him, they're not people; they're reporters. He didn't see anything. I see reporters. I see cameras and questions.
Gives me the feel of something. Do you guys ever listen to the podcast Welcome to Night Vale?
No,
I'm not.
It's like a community podcast, but like just weird stuff. Like it's just kind of almost like Cthulhu horror-esque and weird stuff, but it does weird stuff like that. Like the whole in that town, the librarians are like ravenous beasts that you have to like fight off. That's what it kind of reminds me of. Oh no, reporters.
Oh yeah, the humor in this film, it felt very like skittish version of Dumb and Dumber. Like Dumb and Dumber was like very like we're hard set in this universe, but this was like anything weird could happen within this, and it was sort of enjoyable to that degree, but it was also like slow, so weirdly paced. It was a bit of a getting tough.
Yeah, it definitely lingers a little too long in the middle or end. I don't know, like it could have been tightened up quite a lot, but like I did find the the Bob and Doug parts always were charming to me still.
Mm.
Like that definitely held up for me. Like the
Yeah.
plot, I was like, I don't really care about this, but their chemistry together was always just really fun to watch, which is like why.
Yeah.
Kill him. He's my brother.
You've never been apart. No. They separate for the first time. Oh my god. Well, and that was my favorite part was them and the being like booked in the asylum. I can't remember if the lie detector was part of that or when.
So the lie detector comes after this.
Oh, okay, that part. Yeah, it was kind of in general. This whole section was great for me. Steamroller.
I'm steamrolling you. Take off.
Take off, eh?
Steamroller.
This is so Dumb and Dumber, like childish coded. It's wonderful, but
I find them charming, and I've always hated Dumb and Dumber because I find them obnoxious.
I love that movie. It's like my favorite comedy ever.
Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, I love Dumb and Dumber. I quote. That's the movie I quote like every line from.
I do quote it, even though I don't like it.
Sequels.
Every time
Boy's been doing a little boozing, have you? I've said that like a million times in my life.
For some reason, the only ones I quote are every time I see soup du jour. Excuse me, Flo. What is the soup du jour? That and the Samsonite was way off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's impossible to see a Samsonite suitcase and not say that.
Yeah. Told you, I don't know if those are weird quotes to pick for those little ones.
No, those are great ones from that movie.
Yeah, I also really liked, them with the electroshock therapy. It's my turn. It's my turn. I'm gonna come back for my turn.
Yeah, this is the time where Griffin's character there, she starts like becoming more lucid because she's been basically like strapped to a bed and like drugged for the better part of the second to third act. And and then Rosie comes and saves him from the shock therapy, I believe.
Rosie LaRose. You like to be called Rosie. I know you like to be called Rosie.
Rosie LaRose, yeah. He comes in. I never looked up if he was actually. He talked so little. I was like, is he actually French Canadian? I wasn't sure. I never looked it up. But yeah, he comes and saves them, and then still somehow it did fall victim to that classic Bond villain where for some reason instead of just shooting them because clearly he had a gun, he just dumps them in a brew vat at some point and tries to drown them in beer. All that
was old Bob McKenzie.
But before even I believe, was it before that, or I guess technically before they even got into the asylum, just to backtrack a little, there was that whole scene with the van jumping into the lake, and I believe that's how they originally got caught.
Oh yeah, and you see like the CN Tower in the background and stuff.
Yeah, as they like
dropping a van right into Lake Ontario.
But
which was probably pretty new. The CN Tower was probably pretty new at that point. So they're like, look at this thing.
73. Let me look it up. But I'm pretty sure
10 years. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't put into a lot of films between that 10-year period. So
74
showed up. Oh, yeah.
Oh, the main pod construction 74. Okay. No, yes, it's really new. They started construction in 73. So yeah, really new.
They're like, look at this tower. Take off.
Yeah, only like 7 years old, basically.
I like how in like the next movie we watch, it's like basically the reason for wars. It's like, what is this? Why are they building that tower? They think they're so fucking great. Like,
it just also like threw me off because I hadn't thought of it as it used to be the tallest freestanding structure in the world until it was beat out by the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah,
but I hadn't thought it's been so long.
By something else.
Probably Tokyo Skytree or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, it got beat out a few times already, so I've forgotten that used to be the tallest freestanding tower in the world.
Once reigning champions, now falling off the ladder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely the movie had that whole scene with they go into the water and then they're under there for like 12 hours just drinking or like
bottle. Well, I don't know if they're
bottled.
drinking or if they're sucking out the air from empties.
No, they're sucking out the air from the bottles, the empty
Yeah,
bottles.
which was only good for the was a great cop scene where he's like, they're not coming out, he knocks on the door,
that was a great
and he
scene
pulls out
too,
his registration, his license and registration for the cop.
I should have picked that.
It was pretty good.
Yeah,
That was a good scene. Yeah, that was good. That was
so
good. Good mind
I
work.
didn't pick any of those good scenes that you guys mentioned. I'd pick just a line that made me chuckle. So Bob drinks all that beer in the vat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vat scene.
And then
It's
after
post-vat
that
scene. Yeah, they're like,
it's
oh, there's a
post-vat.
fire over at the mental asylum or whatever. He's like, oh, I got an idea. Let's move him out.
Yeah.
Pisses on it.
You done yet?
Yeah.
Duty.
You did a fine job, son. What took you 2 minutes would have taken us 2 hours. You ever want a job with the fire department, you come and see me. You got it, huh?
What about my brother? Can he get a job?
You boys want to come with us?
Where are you going?
Oktoberfest.
Jeez, I've had enough beer for a while.
2 trucks full of that bad beer went there this morning.
We have to stop the people from drinking it.
That's a thirsty crowd. It won't be easy.
Okay, I got an idea, but we gotta go home first, okay?
Yeah, that was the only time while watching it that I actually like laughed out loud. It's just like, gee, I had enough beer for a while. Like, not even like most people would be like, I never want to see a beer again, or like, he drank an entire vat like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's like, I'm tapped out for now.
Give me an hour. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So yeah, they basically rush home after that point, and you get this funny scene where they're like, they rush in and they see that their living room's empty, and there's empties everywhere. Like, oh, Dad was going at it there last night, eh?
They brought a whole like truck full of beer, and they drank it all, and then they catch their parents having sex, who are played by
Dave
Thomas
and I was like, that's a hilarious visual gag. That's perfect.
That is, yeah. There was some good stuff here. It is the pacing, I think, that kind of kills it.
Yeah, all the comedy bits were great, but like the non-comedy bits were
they need to get to the next scene and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, boys, like it's so it sort of struggles from like a simplicity to it all, and like just the production simplicity, and it's like it's very aged, you know. So it's sort of, admittedly it's 83, you know, people are used to like fucking silent films and shit basically from like not that long ago, right? So like they're used to like
83. Jesus, young man.
Hard came out 2 years after this.
I'm just saying, you know, like not long ago, you know, there's like the pacing is still slow at that time. People can enjoy longer paced moments in films and stuff, as opposed to, I guess, you know, nowadays where it's more like, you know, try to keep it flowing and keep it going and keep it brief and stuff.
It felt like it just kind of, they felt like the skit, like the little bits they thought of were really funny, and I think they just it was a movie, so it needed to have a plot, but I feel like that was like the last thing they cared about.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Definitely the last thing they cared about.
They fashioned that, so all the bits that they, you know, thought up that would be funny were great. The rest of it was just like kind of
silly,
like yeah, and I don't know what is the era. Is this before the era of like Airplane and all of those like crazy comedies?
It's like Spaceballs.
Yeah, but like even more absurd. Like Airplane is what I'm thinking of, but all like the Leslie Nielsen movies that came out, like I felt like
Airplane came out in 1980, so
okay,
you know,
so it's
within that sort of like, oh, these are fresh and people are loving these sort of comedic like parody satire, you know.
Yeah, I felt like it didn't quite, it maybe should have got it was almost there. They should have just kind of taken the leap and just gone all the way, basically, because those were the best parts. The absurd parts were the best parts, but they tried to keep some semblance of like tension, and you're just like, I don't care about any of that stuff.
We like to ask a few questions here on the show too. Which performance would you hold up? For me, it's Vic Moranis, I think.
Like, well, which one? Like the actor, or like
Yeah.
the both of them together? Their chemistry
Yeah.
is just still charming and so fun to watch. I love seeing those two together. They like really they just look like they're enjoying themselves. Like they still look like they're having fun filming this. Like and like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't not necessarily like I didn't like Dumb and Dumber because I find that kind of obnoxious. And kind of a lot of these types of films I find that duos somewhat obnoxious, like Step Brothers too. I also find them somewhat obnoxious, but these guys I still find very cute and charming. Like they're funny without being like creepy or annoying or like I just find them very charming and funny to watch.
I think the references of Dumb and Dumber are more or less like the influences within that. You know, like those movies, you can tell like where the influences of Dumb and Dumber were like from Strange Brew and stuff like that. There's that sort of simpleton buddy comedy sort of deal. For me, the performance I would say hold up. Obviously, Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, like those guys are tops in this movie. Every scene that they're in is the more enjoyable ones, even though some of them can be ridiculously dumb. But I also want to, I think, just for the sake of variety, I'm actually going to give my hold up to the gentleman that played Rosie, whose name was, I have this written down somewhere. Please tell me. Yeah. The guy who played Rosie, his whole thing was
the romantic
great.
lead.
Yeah, you know, I think I was more into it because I was expecting him to be like more villainous, and he ended up being more like the power hero and stuff like that. Yeah.
He was
yeah,
like
Agnes McGinnis, that's his name. Agnes McGinnis.
You mean Angus?
Angus McGinnis, yeah. What was I saying?
Probably
Agnes.
not. Definitely not French Canadian then I was gonna say with that name.
Angus McGinnis? No.
Angus McGinnis.
Probably come out this way. Yeah, the setting aesthetic, I mean, it doesn't look great, even for 83, but it's not supposed to. Like
I kind of like this. I guess I was saying off screen before we started that like because I watched the movies in order. So I watched I watched which one did I watch? Anyways, I really liked like all these movies are like about 10 years apart. So I really enjoyed watching like I got to see like Toronto in the 80s, and then Toronto in the 90s, and then Canada in the early 2000s. So it's kind of fun to see what the city looked like pre crazy construction boom and all of that.
Yeah,
it was very gray. It was very gray.
I would agree.
Somebody not from a city-ish place, like it was very. This
movie, I mean, that's what the city looks like in spring and fall after the leaves have fallen. So it's wet.
And to be fair, not all of this was like filmed technically in Toronto. You can tell that a lot of this was filmed in like Etobicoke and potentially like Mississauga and like around those areas.
And all that's Toronto. It's all the same.
Yeah, but it's a lot of it's no, fuck you. It's not. It is and it isn't. But it's mostly suburbia. That's like calling Dartmouth Halifax.
I do.
Well, okay, yeah. You want to like Greater Toronto area, you know, Halifax Regional. It's all the same. But like,
yeah, exactly.
The point is like they definitely played more in like the suburban areas that you like. I remember, I don't know, there was some shots I was like, I think I remember that house because I remember driving by that house. Like that's like some of those shots, you know. Yeah, the setting and aesthetic is definitely aged. When they're outside, I think I find it more interesting because it's like, oh, there's, you know, a bit of Ontario in a time capsule. It's when they're more like inshore and like on sets. It's like, okay, like it's.
I guess it sticks out for me is because I used to love, like Michael when I were young and dating. He used to pick me up because I lived in North York. See, different than Toronto, Devon, very suburbs. So he used to drive me downtown. And I used to love the skyline. Like the Toronto skyline was like lit up at night. It was so pretty. And now it's horrifically ugly because they've built like 30, 40 condos that are just. It blocks the whole thing. It doesn't look as nice. And this kind of like, it was so nice to see it like I don't know, before all of the condos went up.
It's true. I would agree. Older Toronto skylines just look nicer because they're this like gradual, and then there's the tower, and now it's just like masses tower. It's like
Yeah, and they're all like they don't really fit together very nicely in like a nice way, and like it just
I always find it I internally find it funny when like you'll go by a place and you see this really huge condo, and I'm sure somebody's like, sweet, I got this amazing view of like Lake Ontario, and they probably have it for about 5 years, and then all of a sudden somebody starts building a condo up in front of their fucking view. It's just like,
Yep.
what are we doing?
I've worked in real estate, so I'm just like, yeah, that's gonna be fun for a couple of years until someone builds something right in front of you.
Halifax has height limits.
We do in certain areas of Toronto, like King West is I think 10 to 15 stories. We kind of supposed to peter out, but yeah. So like there are height limits in certain areas, but
Eventually,
yeah,
the downtown core of Toronto is just going to be a giant 900-foot block of concrete.
Yeah, it's they're all hideous. I think someone called them bird shit architecture. Might look nice from a bird's point of view, but on the street level, it looks like shit, which is pretty much most of Toronto. But I mean, Toronto's kind of like, it is a grungy city. I think that was true of like New York too. And like Yonge Street was like pretty bad place from what I remember reading about it in the 70s. And yeah, it's worse now. There was a time where it got very like commercial, and there was like the Hard Rock Cafe when they built the Eden Center. It became like gentrified, but now it's on the way downhill. But like it used to be like adult stores and prostitution, and it was like not a very nice.
Zanzibar is the strongest staple in all of Yonge Street. Like you could go up Yonge Street and you can go through archives of Toronto of Yonge Street. Zanzibar was there, and it was always been there, and will probably still always be there.
There's a funny skit that I found from SCTV. I don't remember how I stumbled across it on YouTube. It's somewhat related because it's SCTV. I can't remember which people it was. Was it Dave Thomas or was it John Candy? And I don't know what the joke is because I'm not from that era, but it was them just like, we're walking on Yonge Street. And it was like them in the 70s, just like, we're walking up and down Yonge Street. Like, yeah, we're going to go walk Yonge Street. Them walking up and down. I don't know what the reference was, but kind of fun to watch. I don't know. I like. You guys didn't notice the yellow Toronto police cars? Our taxi police cars.
I did. So I mean, I don't know about you guys. Are you guys hungry? Excellent timing, even though we didn't hear what you just said there, Davin. But Strange Brew, 1983. Bob tells Rosie that Doug has seen Jedi 17 times. The actor that plays Rosie, Angus McGinnis, played the Gold Leader in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So,
what?
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a little Star Wars roll around there for you.
Yay.
The name of the brewery in this film is Elsinore Brewery. Max von Sydow, who played the brewmeister in this movie, was also in the film The Seventh Seal, 1957. Great fucking film if you haven't seen it. In that film, he and his squire were heading towards the village of Elsinore, but decided not to because the plague was there. And MGM... Yeah, it's an interesting.
They didn't write anything in this movie. They just took shit from like whatever people were around them. Like,
that's how you write a movie, Davin. An MGM studio media release claimed that the stunt of the van jumping into Lake Ontario, jumping into Lake Ontario was a world record. The van jump was performed from the vehicle driving off an 8.5-foot ramp, then flying through the air about 40 feet over the lake for about 175 feet prior to landing in 30 feet of water.
Wow. That was a great shot, I have to say. Aesthetically, I forgot about that, but that was just with the CN Tower in the background and the van going. Beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
The giant, like, the giant barrels, keggers rolling out with, people in it, and you see the one just kind of like skip across the water, or no, one falls out before they hit the ramp, and that's supposed to be the like leading brewmaster that's actually
Yeah.
works the floor. He gets like and for when they open it up to check on him, they're like, oh, I thought they like killed the guy, but like, they didn't, thankfully.
I was like,
But
no
like,
way that guy survives that.
yeah, there's no ways that dude would have
No way.
survived that. Yeah, so the emergency vehicles used during filming were all real Metropolitan Toronto Police squad cars, and the ambulance used briefly were on loan from Metropolitan Toronto Ambulance. I didn't know that the Toronto Police had yellow cars back then. That was interesting to find out.
I think I only know that because I watched this movie as a kid. I was like,
Ah,
I didn't knew that the police cars used to be yellow.
what an interesting choice. The basic plot, as well as many of the names, are references to William Shakespeare's Hamlet. The castle in Hamlet was Elsinore. The heir to Elsinore's father was murdered by her uncle. And then who comes to her as a ghost in Hamlet? The uncle's name was
Oh my
Claudius,
God.
and in the movie, he is named Claude.
So I'm just not cultured enough to appreciate the depth of this film.
Yeah, we think it's like just surface and dumb, and it's like, actually, if you look into it, this is pretty
I did read that
Shakespearean.
there was a bunch of Hamlet nods in there.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So they really didn't write anything. They're like, what do we use for a plot? I don't know,
Nothing.
Hamlet. Sure. Done.
Done. Easy. Copy paste.
Amazing.
While
Like they
not a
made this
direct
movie like the way you described them making the skits in the first place. They're like, well, they want us to make a movie. I guess we'll just throw some cliche shit together and give them that.
While not a direct novelization, a book shaped like Bob and Doug's ubiquitous beer bottles was published as a promotional tie-in for the movie. The book touted its ingredients as a mellow blend of choice cartoon tidbits and the finest photo snippets aged in goatskin bags. It also featured a fake library card insert with the signatures of famous Canadians who allegedly checked the book out, including hockey player Bobby Hall and author Margaret Atwood. Being only available for a short time, this book is currently out of print. As mentioned earlier, Mel Blanc is provided the voice of the Mackenzie's father. He was paid $10,000 for 1 day's work.
Hey man, he's the best.
Just best. Yeah.
Before filming, all the major breweries wanted to Mackenzie's brothers to appear in beer advertisements. Excuse me. The filmmakers had the promise of Molson's brewery, but once the brewery found out that there was a joke in the film about putting a mouse in a beer bottle so that a complaint could be made in order to get free beer, they distanced themselves from the film. The filmmakers were also banned from filming in a brewer's retail store and from using the name Brewer's Retail. They ended up building a replica of the store at a cost of more than $45,000 and calling it the Beer Store. Ironically, Brewer's Retail later changed the names of its stores to the Beer Store, and they continue to operate that name today.
It's funny. That's like Bob and Doug's whole thing, like just trying to get free shit in weird ways. Like that's their whole thing about movies too.
They're scammers.
It's like you just yeah. It's like if you once as soon as you figure out how the movie's gonna end, you just what was it you do? They had a whole thing with that anyway.
I love that they were well known enough to make a movie that people were like excited to see, and yet they still live with their parents and don't have $15 for beer money. It's like, okay.
Oh, the moths. That's what they do in the movie theater.
Right,
they
yeah,
take a
to
jar
get free
of
movies.
Yeah. They make them land on the camera.
And the final morsels here. So, a sequel to the film entitled Home Brew was planned for production in 1999. I remember hearing about this.
99.
But financing
Wasn't
fell
Moranis
through.
out of acting by then?
Like
he'd quit acting
probably
to take care of his like sick wife. Or
Yeah. Yeah, he
passed away
wasn't
already.
acting. Yeah, but
he
he was still retired, kind of.
He was I think he went up until like 98 with like babies. Honey, I Blew Up the Baby, I think was one of the later ones. I just looked this up recently, and so
Yeah.
that's why I
Honey, I
remember.
Blew Up the Kid. I saw that.
But his wife died like a few years before that already. But I think he
Yeah.
stopped acting in like right before 2000.
Yeah, that would make sense. So yeah, so the sequel entitled Homebrew, it was planned for production in 1999, but financing fell through on the last minute. Co-written by Dave Thomas and Paul Flaherty.
Flaherty.
Flaherty was also going to direct, and Dan Aykroyd
You mean
was
Joe
on board.
Flaherty?
Paul Flaherty.
Is he related
you don't mean Joe Flaherty from SCTV?
No, it says Paul Flaherty.
Okay.
That's the he did the Count Dracula bit, right? It's Joe Flaherty.
Yeah.
Maniac Mansion.
Paul Flaherty was born in September 94 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was a writer and producer known for the Tracy Ullman Show, SCTV, and Billy Crystal, Don't Get Me Started. So he was
born in 94.
Paul Flaherty was, yes. He wasn't Joe Flaherty. He could be related to Joe Flaherty. I don't know.
Born in 94.
Yes, Paul Flaherty was born in 1945.
Oh, no, you said 94.
Okay, I read things all right? Leave me alone.
I was confused.
Flaherty was also going to direct, and Dan Aykroyd was on board to play the part of friend Rick Rickble.
He was in this movie, though, Aykroyd, for like a second.
Was he?
He was that cop.
Who was?
No, that was Canadian
No,
Bacon.
that's Canadian Bacon. No, never mind.
Paul and Joe are brothers. Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Principal photography was to begin on July 19th, 1999 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. At one point, Todd McFarlane was to step in as an executive producer to revive financing for the film, but it never followed through. The plot of this follow-up, according to a Maple Palm release, would feature Bob and Doug, now working as garbage men, being convinced by a fast-talking insurance salesman played by Dan Aykroyd to get into micro brewing business. So yeah, I mean, what could have been, I guess. And A was spoken 174 times in this movie. Cinematography was Stephen Poster, edited by Patrick McMahon and Graham the Tank Williams. Music by Charles Fox. Release date of August 26, 1983. Running time 90 minutes. A budget of $4 million. And who wants to take a guess at the box office?
Less than $4 million.
I know I cheat because I read about this, but I only know the American. So I know they made like $8.5 million in the States, but I don't know the full amount.
You got it, $8.5 million gross worldwide for the most part. So, box office smash back in '83 was Strange Brew.
A smash. Well,
one of the things I liked, it's not really for this movie in particular, but just Bob and Doug, that I found out that the Kuluku is them imitating the Who's Who Hinterland theme, the flute in the Who's Who in the Canadian Hinterland commercials, which I thought was really fun. Canadian.
Yeah, I do love a Hinterland Who's Who. Yeah. All right. Well, does this one have rewatchability for you guys?
For me, it does. Yeah, I would watch. I mean, yeah, I've watched it a few times, so I would watch it again.
For me, this was obviously the second time I've watched this film, to my knowledge. I remember, like I said, I remember watching it as a kid over at like a family gathering. I thought it was kind of weird. Will I watch this film again? Probably, if somebody asked me or told me they never watched Strange Brew, I might show it to them, but I can't say I'd watch it on my own.
Be a good party movie, I think. You watch it while you're chatting at a party, kind of thing.
Yeah, just put it on the background, like no sound.
I think I'll just echo your sentiments there without actually saying them, Murphy. I think pretty much what you said. Yeah. And which leads us to our final question. Does it hold up?
For me, it does.
Jessica, I'm afraid it does not. there,
Coffee.
there are enjoyable moments. One of them tops being the defendant just snapping all the reporters' necks. But everything else, it's definitely an aged '83 film. It is a Canadian cult classic and probably should be witnessed once, but I don't think it holds up really. I don't.
Sorry, Jessica, I don't either. It's just like I wanted to like it so much more. I was like, 'cause I love Rick Moranis. Like I super love Rick Moranis. It's just like waiting. I was just waiting to laugh, and I waited until the end when you said it. It's like, well, I don't need any beer for a while. Then I laughed. I'm like, where was that the whole time?
Thank you, Dave. To quote another Liverpool loser who accidentally stumbled upon a devious plot. Hey, man, it's just your opinion, man.
Yep.
There you go.
We didn't know.
It was 83. We didn't know. We didn't know.
A very good year.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, definitely holds up.
We didn't know you were actually supposed to write parts of your movie.
It's Hamlet. It's classy.
That's true. It's
too
drunk Canadian
for
Hamlet.
this film.
It's one of my favorite.
That was a review for Canadian Bacon, which I thought. I think.
So, but you've saved it to be relegated to the C, and it makes it into the B movie category, Jessica. So you've saved it from being embarrassed in the C.
B for Brew. B for
exactly.
Bob and Doug.
B for Brew. So let's move over to Theater 2. My pick to be Canadian Bacon, which doesn't exist. We call it ham. So I don't know. There's no such thing as Canadian bacon. Canadian bacon.
What is Canadian bacon again? I get confused.
It's ham. Like
it's
if you
back bacon
for breakfast and you
it's
can
not
order
ham.
a piece of ham.
It's back bacon.
It's the round,
it's
like
ham.
Processed ham that you
it's
get.
Called
with
back
yeah.
bacon.
Except on anywhere in Canada where it's called ham. You can get ham sausage or bacon.
Nope, we call it back bacon up here.
Okay. I gotta look this up again because I always get confused.
You will never find that on a menu. Every menu says sausage, bacon, or ham with your breakfast. But anyway,
it's I don't think it's not ham. Ham is like way thicker. Back bacon is thinner than ham.
It's thin sliced ham.
See, I always get confused because I assume they're talking about female bacon. That's what I always think they're talking about, but it's not, right?
No.
Okay.
See, nobody knows in Canada.
Okay. Canadian bacon, also known as back bacon, Irish bacon, English bacon, or rashers,
or ham,
looks suspiciously like ham, but not that much like American bacon. Also, streaky bacon. The main thing that separates the breakfast staples is where they come from on a pig. Ham comes from the back legs, specifically the thighs and the rear, while the back bacon comes from the what was it? Fucking shit. From the back. Hence the back bacon.
What? Okay, that's really weird. That looks like two different products. I'm like looking at the wiki and like
cousin Dave says female bacon is back bacon. It's the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay, because that's what I just thought it was.
I've never heard of this female bacon before.
But what they call Canadian bacon looks like our ham.
Yeah,
like
it's ham.
Ham at a diner. But with the rasher,
it looks suspiciously like ham. It comes from the back of the pig, while ham comes from the legs and thighs.
No, but
hence the ham strings, ham.
Oh, it's a type. Okay, it's a form.
It is. Yes, exactly.
Well, we're talking about a movie anyway. Canadian Bacon from 1993, starring John.
Right.
Candy,
what are we talking about?
Perlman, Alan Alda, Bill Nunn, and Rip Torn, directed by Michael Moore. As we know, has only directed documentaries. This movie included,
and still has only directed documentaries.
He's only ever made documentaries.
Yeah,
Roger
this
Me,
definitely
Sicko, Canadian Bacon, all Fahrenheit. Didn't he do that?
They'll try and tell you that this is Michael Moore's only non-documentary film. This is a documentary.
That's a lie. That's a goddamn lie. It's a documentary. So, Michael Moore, what you somehow knew things that nobody else knew back in 1993, and I take my toque off to you, sir, because for one, you somehow told the future, and
Oh yeah, there was a line in here. I was
two,
like,
I really like this movie. I mean, John Candy can do no wrong in my eyes. Dan Aykroyd is in this movie. I mean, look at the list there: Alan Alda, Rip Torn, Bill Nunn. Like, there's tons of people.
Speaking of your eye, speaking of your eyes, there, Davin, has the trailer ever crossed your eyes for this film?
100%.
Yeah,
that's why
Jessica?
I can skip it and go visit the lavatory while you guys
I
watch the
feel
trailer.
like I kind of okay. I think I have a kind of memory of it. Like it shows the military something or other, and like movie guy voice, and like, but I could be wrong.
I think I remember the VHS trailer for this film, but this was a theatrical trailer for when the movie came out.
I have the results from the overnight tracking. You know, it's not fair. I mean, every other president had all of the Russians to blame for everything. What have I got?
For an unpopular president.
The voters felt that your being alive or dead had no real bearing on their daily lives.
It's time to give war a chance.
Dead.
What are we going to do for an enemy now?
A riot between Americans and Canadians broke out last night.
Now, with a little inspiration.
All I said was Canadian beer sucks.
Give me 1 week and I'll have Americans burning maple leaves.
They'll create a cause worth fighting for.
Is Canadian Prime Minister Clark MacDonald a member of a satanic cult?
Oh, that is stunning.
Canadians are always dreaming up a lot of ways to ruin our lives. The metric system, for the love of God.
Do not panic. I'm in complete control. There's a time to think, there's a time to act. And this, gentlemen, there's no time to think. Move out!
Welcome to Canada.
I'm your worst nightmare.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We got ways of making you pronounce the letter O.
What we have here is a brave but misguided group of Americans who've gone right into Canada and kicked some serious Canadian butt.
Oh, Americans. Welcome to Ontario. Sportsman's paradise. Isn't it, though?
John Candy.
You Canadians are so sneaky.
Alan Alda.
Surrender pronto, or we'll level Toronto.
Rhea Perlman.
What does this look like to you?
Never saw a white one that size.
Kevin Pollak.
When have you ever heard anyone say, honey, let's stay in and order some Canadian food?
Rip Torn.
I can't kill America's neighbors.
I can.
Canadian Bacon. From the director of Roger and Me.
Yowza! All right, now how did you know that was a nuclear facility?
Well, they tricked us on that one. That's a hospital. But it's a hell of a strike.
It's a hell of a strike. Rip Torn kicked ass in this film. He kicks so much ass in this film.
He's essentially played the same character in a ton of films, right? Like, is that not the same character in Men in Black? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the same guy, right?
Yeah. He plays Zed in Men in Black, and yeah, it's basically just like I kind of viewed this as like Zed's like backstory. Like this is what he did before he was made Zed in Men in Black.
Uh-oh, you're muted.
Did you play the trailer?
We did.
I definitely have.
So
not
the
seen that
reason
trailer.
I picked Canadian Bacon is because I had a feeling it might be a documentary now, and I was right. And I wanted to watch it again because it was one of the movies that like plagued the movie network when I was a kid. So I saw it like 100 times back then.
That's probably where I saw the trailer and stuff like that. Was from the movie network. That makes sense. You guys remember the movie network? Shit.
Oh, I had it in my room. So like my origin story with movies was growing up with the movie network in my room as a kid. So I saw a million movies. Some I should have and some I shouldn't have.
What's the movie network again?
I was
in the States for 4 years, so I had like Canadian again.
It was like where you could see movies. Like I guess it was like our HBO kind of.
Yeah, it was essentially our HBO, but it was also like you had to be paying like premium cable.
Okay, this is why I have no idea. I was like, my dad is too cheap to pay.
Yeah. So unlike Davin, probably like myself, Jessica, you may have watched your movies on Bravo and Showcase.
Yeah, pretty much.
Those came in later though. I remember when those channels.
That just reminds me. You know what? You remind me of where I used to watch TV, and I was very earlier movie memory was taping movies off of the City TV, like Saturday night movie specials, like or whatever. I remember what it was called. It was City TV. And I was really proud of myself because I'd figured out how to pause the VCR, so I skipped the commercials and only got the movie parts.
That was a classic trick.
That's what so I remember I watched them on like City TV and stuff when I was
Well, so
stay with City TV as we take you away from all this regular programming stuff to show you what television.
How did you have that handy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong copy. Great movies are next.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Oh, the voice of City TV. I miss that guy. City TV everywhere.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, you mean great movies? It was like City TV started off as great movies, and it became like something like that. But yeah, it was just like, I remember the City TV, like, because I would watch a ton of YTV and stuff like that, and I think they would end up sharing the City TV broadcasts for movies and stuff at one point. Yeah.
It's funny that I like remember like being so proud of cutting out the commercials, and now I'm like, that would be the only thing I'd be interested in now is if I'd recorded the commercials. Those are the best parts. There's a really good guy on TikTok. I have to look up his name, but that's kind of what he does. He salvages old VHSs and plays them on air and shows you the commercials and stuff from way back when.
I think I sat down and I've watched like somebody had like basically recorded a bunch of Nova Scotian commercials, and like it was like all those, and I sat down and watched them, and like Casino Taxi, you know the number.
You're the fast one.
425-666-666-666.
Regional too. Like I thought it was just me and my high school local, but there was I guess this is for the next movie era of like early 2000s. There was a commercial in Ontario where it was like for acne medication, and everyone like made fun of this guy's accent. I don't know what it was. He's like, some people think I eat too many chocolate bars, or
oh my god, yes! Oh my god, I remember that commercial.
Chocolate bars. Oh my god, that and the House Hippos. So good.
The House Hippos. Oh yeah.
Blast Star from the Planet Danger. Or Astor.
Yeah, my arm. I can reattach.
That one gave me nightmares, man.
Oh,
they remade it. And it sucked, but like the old one was terrifying. Yeah. But anyway, so this movie. Okay, be ready, people. This all gets real. This used to be a comedy. So the president he doesn't have good numbers, and he's just like, they're all just like, back in the day was awesome because when you had shitty numbers, you could just have like a war. He's like, so let's, and then, you know, you get your public support again. And he's just like, well, let's just spark it up with Russia again. Let's call the Russian over, whoever is over in charge this week over there. He says, he's like, get him to come over. So he tries to like start a war with Russia, and that doesn't work. They're just joking that they could start a war with the Canadians. Like, they're going through all the different like people they could start wars with, but they've already killed them all, so they're all dead.
Your numbers are down, sir. If you died, the people wouldn't care.
Yeah, exactly. So then
you need a war to bring them up.
Yeah. So they're going to go after Canada, a Cold War. Yeah, they don't want a hot one necessarily. They just want a Cold War. So he's saying to Russia, can't we just make it like the old days? He's like, the Russian guy goes, just like, no, you won. It's all good.
Yeah. They were eating KFC. There was the second movie. They were also eating KFC.
The second movie with KFC.
Yeah, they were both movies eating buckets of KFC.
Yeah, that was their like the ambassadorial dinner. They take them to KFC. But
I was half expecting to see KFC, and like I like movies.
I know. I was like waiting. I was like, could we hit a triple? Another bucket.
Another bucket.
So he I don't think they say it outright. Maybe they do, but he's clearly a Republican president because he's got all these hardliners in his cabinet. Like Rip Torn just wants to attack anyone. He doesn't care. He's just like, America was good when we stuck our boots in your ass, like, and shit like that. He's just like, okay, like, and Kevin Pollak is his like lackey, and he's like kind of like I don't know if you call him like the mastermind behind it all. Maybe.
He's more like a lobbyist, like he was kind of bought out
Yeah.
by very JD Vance coated kind
Oh
of in a
yeah.
way.
There was
Yeah,
also like the Dick Cheney kind of character who's just like wants to sell more weapons. And he's just like, if you're not, who am I going to sell these weapons to if you're not attacking anybody? So it's actually that's all very real too. So yeah, so it's the combination of bad poll numbers and rich people wanting to get richer. So they decide they're going to attack Canada, or at least start a Cold War with Canada. And so they're going to like do a false flag mission where they're going to try to attack like something. It was like a power station or something in the U.S. as Canadians, dressed up as Canadians. I think they have toques or something.
Well, yeah, Kevin Pollak's like, well, let's go talk to the Canadian guy on our team, and this is your favorite scene, Devin?
Oh yeah.
What up, Bill? How you doing,
Oh, this guy's crazy too. He just wants to attack everybody too.
I didn't notice at first the science for all the characters.
What do you say, Stu? Long time no see, huh?
Well, it's like the
I love this
plaza in
actor
here, huh?
too. He's in Slapshot.
Yeah,
and a bunch of
it's
other
got
stuff.
me in a temporary place here, that's all.
I see you're still proud of telling Kennedy to send in those advisors to Vietnam.
You're damn right. In fact, the whole Vietnam War was my idea. Not ashamed of it one bit. They just followed my advice and gone nuclear.
Yes, well, I'm sure history will vindicate you.
Would have wiped out the Koreans, too, if I'd had my way. Then we wouldn't be driving behind them shitty little compacts of theirs. They got no pickup.
I think those cars are built in South Korea. Those are our Koreans, Gus.
Like I
Those are
care.
our Koreans, Gus.
Like I
You got
care.
anything, something?
You mean Canada?
Yeah.
We can't talk here. Let's go for a walk.
Oh, okay. You got a secretary hidden somewhere to hold your calls for you?
Oh, Brad Sullivan, I'd forgotten.
Oh, I love Brad Sullivan. Those fucking Canucks.
Yeah, his whole Canadian military get up when they're like infiltrating like the Niagara Falls thing. Like so basically there's that whole portion of the storyline, the political portion, but then there's also the John Candy storyline with Rhea Perlman.
He's a hero cop, basically, because he saves the president. And even before that, he got everybody on his side. Like at a hockey game.
Okay.
Oh, that I should have picked.
So disjointed.
I know, I'm not the best at the recaps. So, basically, him and Rhea Perlman are cops. And basically, people are killing themselves because everyone's getting fired from
They're
hackers.
sheriffs, though. They're sheriffs, not cops.
Yeah. They're
Well,
border
yes,
patrol
right.
sheriffs.
Right. So they're standing at the bottom of the falls to get the bodies and it's the most hilarious, maybe the most hilarious joke in the movie. You get $50. You get $25 for talking somebody out of jumping the falls, and you get $50 for fishing out their dead body.
Jump!
Jump!
That's our buddy Roy Boy. Jump, Roy Boy! He's like, no, he's wearing my hat. Like, jump, Roy Boy.
And Roy Boy, played by Kevin J. O'Connor.
He's
like,
great too. Kevin J. O'Connor is great.
Kevin J. O'Connor is the epitome of being a side actor that just like emphasizes the scene by just him doing that. He's able to make a scene so much better.
There's always actors that like they do that one role and like I never learn their names and I always refer to them as that character and he's one of them. It's like it's Benny.
Yeah, it's Benny from the Mummy films with Brendan Fraser and stuff. Like he's one of the more iconic characters from that film, and he eats up all the scenes. And Benny's literally one of the best, and that's the power,
It's like I'm trying to make a political statement, and they're all just like, "Who gives a shit?"
I didn't understand. Why did he have to duct tape himself to go off the falls? I didn't understand. Like, what was the duct tape for?
Because he didn't want to swim. He didn't want to swim once he landed. Like he wanted to
was that what it was? I assumed
yeah.
it was because he was trying. I thought he was trying to make it seem like a murder.
No,
or
he didn't
something.
want to like save himself by swimming.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't understand why he had
I thought he
distracted
was trying to make it
himself.
look like he was kidnapped and murdered and thrown off a cliff. That was my understanding during that scene. And then he, didn't, because his car just shits the bed right before it hits the barrier and bumps on the barrier, and then he's like,
all this parts fall in.
John Candy's kind of like Forrest Gump, where he just keeps like saving the president and stuff like that. So like,
Did he always sound Canadian? I know he's supposed to play an American in this film, but I guess maybe I haven't watched a John Candy film in a long time. But I was like, he sounds really Canadian in this movie.
oh yeah, he's just playing himself, like I think, like his own voice. It's pretty great. And him and Rhea Perlman and Bill Nunn are a fun team, and Roy Boy, of course.
I feel like that was the only truly Canadian thing about this movie, is how much Canadians love taking the piss out of our own country. Like,
Well, this is an American taking the piss out of his country and our country, I guess. This is Michael Moore.
I know, but like them just playing up the ridiculous stereotypes.
Michael Moore, though, is a famed Canada-phile. He loves Canada. So.
He's so misinformed.
Yeah.
I still remember the scene of Michael Moore just being like, in Canada, they don't even lock the doors. He just like walks up to somebody's fucking home and opens the door.
He just walks in. He's just like, "Hi, I'm just seeing if you lock your doors." They're like, "Oh, hi."
She's like, dude, I don't know where you live. I lock my friggin' door.
It was a different time. I mean, I don't really lock my doors.
The bodies in the water going over the cliff because the factory closed in their town. The munitions factory.
The one, yeah.
Yeah. That was Hacker, whatever. He's like, he's basically supposed to be like,
Dick Cheney.
Black Rock? No, there's kind of more like, I think
Blackwater.
Blackwater, yeah,
That's Dick Cheney.
Is it Dick Cheney? Is that
yes?
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Okay, maybe. I might
Owns
be
all
thinking
the
of something.
weapons. All the weapons.
Dick Cheney became vice president to sell weapons.
Did a great job.
Okay, yeah, just Blackwater. All right. Yeah, so there's that whole allegory there.
Yeah. So he saves the president, which is amazing. Like, John Candy was a damn good sheriff. Like, he acted like so they're selling all these weapons, right? So they're just giving them out to people in the crowd and shit. And Roy Boy, I think it was trying to like go to bazooka or some shit. Like,
we bought
for $25.
Yeah,
you got ballistic missiles and
shot it at the president, but John Candy they just let Roy Boy go. Like,
it was accidental. It was accidental.
That would never happen. They would like arrest him and beat the shit out of him, probably kill him. Like, just let him go.
Accidental missile discharge. What was the thing they were selling? Chemical. This unexploded chemical weapon causes death in under 3 minutes. You start the bidding at $50 or.
Only in America, the old weapons auction. So that's kind of taking the piss out of the U.S. I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, the blatant gun use is so comedic.
Oh, they approach Kevin Pollak's character because they want to ask to buy or get some money to buy what the heck did
AR-15s. Yeah, they wanted a bunch of AR-15s and like an anti-tank missile. Just
they only use for civil disturbances.
Civil disturbances, yeah, that was the word. Yeah, just for civil disturbances. It's like,
only.
You want to basically have enough artillery to take out a whole town. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure, why not?
So, like, John Candy's crew get all riled up by this war with Canada thing, and they go north. Well, also because and eventually, Rhea Perlman gets kidnapped, and that becomes like a rally. Not kidnapped; she's arrested. And,
they go to litter on the Canadian side because that's the worst crime you can commit in Canada is littering.
And as the retaliation, as the retaliation for nabbing Brad Sullivan and his secret squad that are trying to incriminate Canada for attacking a power plant, so their response to that is to go north and commit the crime of littering.
They're just right stunned by Toronto. They're like, I've never seen a city like this before. It's
so
Albany. but clean.
It smells nice. You guys smell anything?
Albany.
Direct
No, I don't
opposite
smell
of what you said last movie, Devin. So clean here. So beautiful.
No, this movie, funny, the one made by an American, makes that area of Canada look beautiful. Actually, it's all these shots of the falls and drone shots and all these. Well, they were helicopter shots back in the day, but whereas it just looks ugly and gray and dirty in Strange Brew. And same with I Like Movies. Like there's a scene I Like Movies where he's like driving home or whatever, and they just keep showing all these shots of Burlington, and every one of them ugly as shit. I'm like, I've been to Burlington and it's pretty nice where cousin Dave lives. Like there's water and trees and stuff. They didn't show any of that. They just showed like all the parking lots of Burlington in this like movie. And I'm like, this is the
pretty
ugliest
much what
shit
I
ever seen.
Very accurate
January.
portrayal of Ontario in between parts of the you have nice parts, and then when you're on like suburbs, it's just like strip mall, like not strip malls, plazas and
yeah, a lot of plazas. I noticed that last time I was in Ontario. Lots of plazas.
I always get mad because granted all of this is movies, but I'm like, I look at an island as small as like England with like way more population, and yet they always show these like beautiful vistas of like rolling hills, and it's gorgeous. And I'm like, yet us with our 30 million people and our huge landmass, and like everything looks hideous. Everything you drive on the highway, it looks hideous.
That's
in between cities is hideous.
That's more of an Ontario thing, though.
I know. That's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah.
It's not just an Ontario thing though. It's also like down in New York. Like I remember when I was on a road trip with Afterfunk, and we were driving through
the
this.
U.S. Yeah.
Well, no, but I know what you're saying. Like that sort of bland suburbanite. Like it's all just like trees and maybe some houses, and there's not much to it. There's nothing like eye catching.
Little boxes on the hillside.
Yeah, but like I'm driving through like basically the same parts of like New York from, Rochester to Buffalo and stuff like that. And while driving through New York, first time doing it, I felt like I was in Ontario, and I was just driving from like Toronto to Ottawa basically.
We have a lot of
I learned that the hard way as a
that's what it
hitchhiker.
is.
Like it's like yeah.
We have a lot of sprawl. I think that's the problem. Like we don't
urban
keep our
sprawl is
yucky urban, like it's very spread out and like not.
That's why you need to cut down your green belt and build more sprawl.
Oh man, don't bring up Doug
It's
Ford.
not happening. That legal injunction stopped that shit from happening. It's not happening. Let's not. We've got enough. Doug already wants to build a tunnel under 407 for some fucking reason. Like the 407 isn't good enough.
He probably just wants to sell.
He
beer
also
under
wants
there
to
or
build a incredibly useless highway through a bunch of protected land for reasons.
Yeah.
And we have to pay millions of dollars to build a foreign conglomerate's parking lot for their private spa.
Yeah, a spa that's, under 50-year or 500-year term or 5,000-year term, God knows, some ridiculous term. And if we were to actually break the contract, our entire province has to pay like some ridiculous billionaire to trillionaire dollarage that I'm sure Doug's going to get a cutback once he finally retires and leaves us fucking high and dry. This is turning into a political podcast.
Anyway,
not about this.
and then I went
film
to a mall.
podcast.
You brought up the green belt. You're
And then I went
got me
to
all
a
fired
mall.
up now, Devin.
Out by where Jessica lives, and I remember saying, I think it was to Michael, I'm like, if they just built a second floor on this mall, there could be life here, because it's just this endless one-floored mall. And I'm like, why would you do that to the world? Like, just build a second floor. And then Michael's like, because the mall people need to walk it in the morning. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? And he
We have mall walkers. Is that not a thing everywhere
I didn't
else?
know.
You guys don't have mall walkers?
No, people go outside in other places, Jessica.
Well, not in the it's in winter. Obviously, in the summer they walk outside. In winter, they come in the morning before the mall opens, and you walk the mall.
I'm not aware of that here.
Okay, well, it's another Ontario thing. Us and our milk bags.
All right.
Now we got milk bags here too.
Okay. We have diverted. We're gonna return this back to the film we were talking about. How
milk bags,
John
really bad,
Candy
though.
and
It
Rhea
just goes
Perlman and And their crew and all of them were up in Canada, and they get busted for littering, and they book it, and they hop back on their boat to get across Lake Ontario, leaving the two Mounties discussing the finer points of grammar, and they left Rhea Perlman behind to get arrested. And basically they go through that point where they're on the boat and they realize they left her behind. This is where the movie kind of like I get sort of forgetful in the events that happened between.
They're trying to get to the capital of Canada. That's why they're driving
they,
to Toronto.
They don't believe them. They come to go retrieve her. They don't believe the Mountie that she's been taking to Ottawa, because they don't believe Ottawa is the capital of Canada.
Who's played by the amazing Stephen Wright.
Yes.
Like the king of deadpan comedy, Stephen Wright.
Yeah, they even punch him in this movie, and he's just like
that scene. He could like mischaracterize Canadians all you want, but like that scene there, he's like, this guy was bought up a business and merged it and then fired all his employees, and he's like, I was like, all right, this has told me Michael Moore has not done his research into Canadian politics and our antitrust laws. But
did we get into any favorite scenes yet? Did we skip any? Because the Dan Aykroyd scene's amazing. I could have picked that one where he pulls them over because they're like, oh, it is?
Yeah, actually, that is. Is it her favorite
That's
scene?
pretty much coming up.
Okay. What is wrong with this picture?
No snow tires.
No.
I was driving on the wrong side of the road. I can explain that. You see, I'm not used to your rules up here, and I was.
That's not it. This writing on the side of your vehicle.
Oh. How did that get there? Those kids at the garage, I just stopped for like...
Whatever.
Whatever.
My concern
I don't care.
is the sensibilities of a certain distinct and viable part of Canadian society. Les Québécois.
Les Québécois.
You know, wine drinkers, pea soup eaters, French Canadians.
Oh, yeah, those guys, sure.
Pea soup's
to avoid
delicious.
prosecution, I would advise that you comply with our language laws, which specifically prescribe that all signs be in both English and French, Canada's two official languages.
Okay.
I do have to fine you. That'll be $1,000 Canadian, or 10 American dollars if you'd prefer.
Oh, no, I'll pay
I'll pay it.
American there, yeah. There you go, buddy. What do you want, 10?
Buddy.
Thank you very much.
There's your receipt.
Thank you. And now?
In French.
Or
if you
10
please.
American dollars.
If you please.
He just would have stood there like translating it all for them too.
Like, est bien chaud? Your dog needs it.
Mange
Not
mes
a hot
briefs.
dog?
He's so happy with himself too. Like, yep, I did my job well today.
Oh, the part is great.
Oh, is that your favorite?
Yeah.
What is this?
I love that. Oh, you're.
Well, people don't
I
see
do
the
remember
real
this.
me, right? They just see my acne problem. People think that I eat too many chocolate bars or that I don't wash my face. Yeah, I tried many things. I've tried everything, but just
Why are you
nothing
rubbing
works.
it in this kid's shame all these years later?
My brother says I'll probably grow out of it, but I don't think so, no. It's hard to believe now that it will actually go away.
I did not learn until the internet that like every
Call for a free
every Canadian teenager at the time clocked that commercial and like quoted it. I thought it was like must be local to my I did not know every Canadian teenager.
Every Canadian saw that.
That film.
All of acne.
Yeah, that film or that commercial, I should say, probably like mentally it was like, I don't want acne. Oh God, acne. Oh God, and I was one of. I remember having pretty bad acne, and then I was like,
Me too.
I ended up taking what was it, Proactive? Do you guys remember the Proactive commercials and shit like that?
Is that the like 3-step?
Yeah, it was like the
face
3-step face shit.
I
I remember like ordering that.
I did not know I had ADHD until I was in my 30s, but even my kid brain was like, I'm never gonna keep that up. It's like 3-step process, this fosh this, then this thing, and the toe. I was like, I'm never.
I did it. I did it for like 30 days, and it sort of made my acne worse, sort of. But the moment I stopped doing it, acne went away. like, diet, aside, like, get the occasional pimple, but yeah, my acne, it kind of went away after I stopped using the Proactive, which was interesting.
I took a like oral pill, which was a step down from Accutane. There was like Accutane was the full one. I took a step down, and me being me and always getting weird side effects, got something called a pseudotumor cerebri, which was increased pressure in my spinal fluid that was caused by this medication. I had to get a spinal tap.
What the hell?
Pressure. And I had to take 6 months of medication to reverse the symptoms, which made all of pop taste like metal for 6 months. That's my acne story.
There's an origin story for you.
Oh, and then the doctor was like, "Oh, this usually happens to fat kids, so maybe we should lose some weight."
Thanks, Doc.
Cherry on top of the whole process.
That's harsh. Wow. What a twist.
Anyway, back to Michael Moore.
So yeah, they go to rescue Rhea Perlman.
Yeah, they're driving to Toronto. So okay, so the series of events is basically the hacker man dude ends up hacking the CN Tower because he has like a defense mechanism that Kevin Pollak had sold to the Canadians under the guise that the defense system just didn't work. But in fact, it did work, and it was triggering all of the nukes in the States. Now, can you guys clarify to me, were the nukes aimed at Russia? Because I thought the nukes were aimed at the CN Tower.
No, the CN Tower was the control, and I guess their targets were whatever the last previous targets were, which was Russia because of the Cold War. So they just never redirected them, and I think they talked about redirecting them to somewhere else.
But they just didn't do that.
Didn't figure out where.
Figure out where to bomb.
Okay, cool. Okay,
it's
so that
kind
makes
of
a lot more
convoluted.
sense. Yeah, so John Candy and the boys are driving back to Toronto because that's where they believe
the capital is.
Yeah.
Even this little girl tells them that's not the case. They're like,
and that's also where they believe Honey is. So, and she does happen to be there. She okay. So the one scene I almost picked out of this film, there's 2 scenes that I wanted to pick. The one scene I did almost pick was when she wakes up in the hospital and she's covered by teddy bears and she knocks it off. And in the background, they're like, "Would anybody like a free heart exam, like a free bypass?" Like, just like you hear, like they're like, "Did anybody want a free like liver exam or whatever?" Just like saying like basically very expensive medical stuff, but in like making it free and stuff. I forget the line, but I thought it was hilarious. It was just like highlighting, our wonderful,
you can
health.
And all of the teddy bears were from like, who did she say ugh about? Was it Gordon Lightfoot or something? Remember
Gordon Lightfoot? That's right.
Gordon
Lightfoot.
Yeah, the private. I can't remember. I think it was that. There was that, and was another joke about how they torture people by playing. Or no, that was
Anne Murray, wasn't it?
No, that was like they play Anne Murray 24/7.
Yeah, they play Anne Murray all the time.
But no, I think the teddy bear was from Gordon Lightfoot, and she was like, one of the many teddy bears. Yeah, and then she looks out the window in Ottawa, and it's like someone riding a dog sled in like just whiteout conditions.
Yeah, it was basically like a husky pull. Yeah, it was like it was up in the Yukon, and yeah. And then there's like the candy stripers, and there's that one kid.
They're at the Canadian
I swear he was
National
on
Tower.
like Are You Afraid of the Dark and stuff.
Pretty much any adolescent actor from that era was probably on You Afraid of the
Yeah,
Dark.
I forget his name, but I remember he was the blonde candy striper kid. He was basically, I recognized him from Are You Afraid of the Dark. Anyway, that leads to my favorite scene. The guys are driving, and they just start singing "Born in the USA" and like Oklahoma. But it's not
Oklahoma,
that scene.
It's the only line they know. Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's not this scene specifically. It's the scene that briefly follows this. I thought was one of the funniest moments in the entire film. It's when the insurgency squad are like trying to break in. And this guy trips.
Yo, this made me laugh out loud too. Just ends him.
Oh, it's okay. It's just my toe.
He puts a bullet in his head. It's insane.
They're like this super elite squad for the States, like the Super Marine squad. He's like, oh, it's okay. It's just my toe. Blam! Just steps on his chest and caps him.
Like, you're a hindrance to your squad now, soldier.
You are the weakest link.
We can't be caught by the Canadians.
So
that was crazy.
So yeah, basically the Americans are freaking out. The clock's getting down, and Rhea Perlman's up in the CN Tower with an M16 and a grenade launcher. A bunch of
the
people
little kid calls the Canadian National Tower, which no Canadian has ever said ever. So you can tell this movie's written by an American.
Yeah.
Well,
most Canadians probably don't know CN stands for Canadian National, and I'm serious about that.
I mean, they probably could have been called the Canadian National Tower at that time, officially, and it just, eventually got...
Well, it still is officially, I think, but no one would ever say that ever.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they wouldn't ever say that. They probably were calling that in the beginning before they started abbreviating it to CN Tower.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
sure
abbreviate,
CN Tower didn't come around.
But that's always been abbreviated, right? CN Rail. Like, that's why I know what
Mm-hmm.
Canadian National Tower means, because my dad's a big train nut, so obviously I know. But CN Rail, it's the same.
But did they call it Canadian National Rail and then eventually abbreviated it to CN Rail?
CN Rail? I don't know. I guess I've never
Should
heard
ask
anyone call it the Canadian National Tower.
Because that's my point. No one has, Murphy.
Well, okay. All right, fine.
I'm just super
Except
distracted
Michael
now
Moore.
because that actor that you mentioned, and now I'm remembering a TV show that I'm looking up.
Yeah, it was like it was Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I want to say it was Young Hercules.
He was in Andromeda, 100.
Oh yeah, he was in Andromeda. Yeah. Was he in Young Hercules?
Oh, is it Gordon Michael Wolvett?
Was that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. So is his brother.
Yeah,
his brother
yeah.
was the star of the White Fang show.
It
Remember
didn't.
White Fang?
I'm like, he looks familiar, and he reminded me of this series where there was like a spaceship where they all woke up and they didn't know why they were there, and they were like clones or something. I only got one season. I gotta look up what that is. That's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff.
That does ring a bell.
He was also in Bride of Chucky.
It's gonna drive me nuts till I figure that out.
All right. Well, while you try and figure that out, Rhea Perlman, top of the CN Tower, she's like ready to like have a shoot down with the Canadian police, and then there's a whole like she hears the Hackerman computer inside the CN Tower, and she like shoots down the walls, shoots down the computers, ends the clock, saves the day, and yeah, Canadian bacon basically ends at that.
American gun violence saved the day in Canada.
Yeah.
Deepwater Black. Also
yes, Deepwater Black. Oh my god.
I
With
watched
the dolphin?
that as well.
Is that the one with the dolphin?
I give it a try. I found the book that it's based on. I'm trying to find the thing. They were like cloned. They woke up in pods. They didn't know who they were.
No, wait, I'm thinking of something else.
Mission
Yeah,
Challenge.
man, dude, I haven't thought about Deepwater Black in the longest time.
It was that's him. I remember
Oh,
like the
dude.
extremely blonde hair.
And Ezra Dax was in it. Nicole DeBoer.
Yeah. Oh my god.
She was in a lot of Canadian stuff.
All right, now I gotta go watch that show again.
Yeah, we should review this on LLAP.
Oh my god. I think it ended on a cliffhanger and never got resolution. It's so good.
There's
Which
3 books.
performance would you guys hold up in this particular movie?
I mean, I'm gonna give it to little Roy Boy Kevin J. O'Connor. Every scene he's in, even if it's like minute scenes, it's just like his facial expressions and everything he's doing. He just commits to the bit like so hard. And yeah, I've decided I've become a big Kevin J. O'Connor fan, and I want to look up more of his stuff and how he does portrayals. So I hope he keeps working.
Cousin Dave asked, "Why do you think Michael Moore, known for documentaries, wrote this fictional movie?" He didn't.
Yeah, this isn't a fictional movie. This is a documentary. What are you talking about?
I'm gonna have to agree with you about the performance. I think Benny was like the most like natural. Like everyone was like very caricature-y, but he was the only one that kind of interjected
Felt
in like a
real.
real way that was very smooth and very funny. Everybody else felt very like
Hollow.
2D hollow caricatures. But yeah, he was pretty funny.
Special mention to John Candy because I love him. But I'm gonna give it to probably Brad Sullivan, even though. But if I was gonna, because I just love him so much. But if I was gonna give it to somebody with more time actually in the movie, Alan Alda actually kind of brought it as the president. He's like the one serious kind of thing that kind of connects the whole thing while everyone else is being bonkers, right?
I did enjoy his little French. His little when he was trying to say fermez les roquettes. Like,
no,
yeah,
don't put your wife on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, bonjour. Yeah. Then he's like, yeah, thank you. I took 2 years in high school and 4 years in
college. Yeah.
You can't nuke Canada. I summer up there.
I summer.
Like, this is the only reason.
Did you guys notice that he doesn't actually have a name? They just call him the president of the United States and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice
I
that.
don't even think they say which party. I think they tried to keep it as vague.
He kept him very neutral. He kind of was just like a
Yeah.
What's the term? Feckless? Is that the right term? I don't.
Yeah. It was the people around him that made him seem like insane and like Rip Torn and those guys.
Yeah, he just didn't seem to care really about anything.
He's just a callow like politician. He kind of nailed it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the performance. The setting aesthetic, like I said, it made that part of Ontario look beautiful because it's mostly just Niagara Falls and shit. But Niagara Falls
I was like,
nice.
Did they even go to Niagara? Like, I'm pretty sure you can do any of the crap. They just it's like it was just funny to me the distinction, like aesthetically, that like Michael Moore's like little thing he was trying to push about us being clean, and yet I knew it as soon as I saw it because anyone who goes that way when you go to Niagara Falls would drive past it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, back to like dirty USA," and I was like, "That's Hamilton, dirty factory." That's our side.
Yeah, I thought the setting aesthetic was really cool. It was I enjoyed the that sort of authentic 90s cinematography feel to it. Like it just kind of like reminds you of a lot of like films in that sort of time. I enjoyed the cinematography in this. I enjoyed the settings. I enjoyed the sort of outlandish gun setups and uses and stuff like that. Yeah. It was good stuff in my opinion. Aged well.
Yeah, I just like seeing old school Toronto, or when it was Toronto.
And then we skipped over the hockey ball too, where John Candy's just like, yeah, well, then the Canadian beer sucks in the whole.
Oh,
that
should have been, if I had a runner up, that would have been my next best scene because that was hilarious. All I said was Canadian beer suck.
Instead of a fan fighting him, a freaking skater comes off the ice to beat the shit out of him.
The captain of the Canadian team freaking goes over the climbs the wall and like goes straight for him, and then everybody starts rioting, and then it's on the news and like, oh, he's like, Americans started a riot. He's like, oh, he's having Canadian beer. Like the cop starts pounding him.
The cop goes after him.
Stops. Like, what?
The one beer joke I know. What's the similarity between sex in a canoe and American beer?
Oh, they're both fucking on water, or fucking like
they're
water.
Both fucking close to water.
Close to water, yeah.
There you go.
The one that I remember is like Canadians will wean themselves off of alcohol by drinking Canadian beer, water, and then American beer.
I'm not a big beer drinker, but I imagine if it's anything like their coffee situation, then I can imagine that it's very watered down because every time their coffee is atrocious.
Like I actually scoff at people when I see them like walk out of the liquor store with Budweiser because it just tastes like the can it comes in. It's pure gross swill.
Yeah, I don't know.
Water and aluminum is what it tastes like. And sugar. It's really sweet. It's disgusting.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sweet
All right. Well,
sugar. Sounds like you're
sugar
peckish.
aluminum. No, it's bad. It's bad stuff. This one probably has some morsels.
There are some morsels to this Canadian bacon from 1995. The final theatrical feature film of great actor, comedian, superstar John Candy. Although filming had
Not
wrapped on this
true.
film before Wagons East in 1994,
Wagons
which
East.
was released a year earlier. So this was the final theatrical feature film of John Candy, as it was released after Wagons East. He had filmed Wagons East after this film, but Wagons East was released a year earlier. So,
because he doesn't look good in Wagons East. You know,
Yeah, he looks really like very
looks
sick.
like he's on the verge of death.
Yeah. Man, I miss John Candy. Like that hits me as an actual like emotion every now and then. I'm like, I kind of just miss John Candy. He was
That's
my
why I
uncle, Uncle Buck, man. Like Uncle Buck was my
Yeah.
uncle.
John
like-
Candy, Chris Farley, and Robin
Aw.
Williams. The three big three that like completely affected me when they passed.
Yeah. Treasure. That is like, not to make this political, but every time they talk about, because somewhat thing, because he talks about the Canada being the 51st state, which comes up in this movie, which is really funny. Or not so funny. They did. He said he's like, they're basically the 51st state. But they always talk about Trump talks about trade deficit, and I was like, man, we gifted you, John Candy and Dan Aykroyd and the
Martin
Ryans.
Short, and they still keep him.
Martin Short, you owe us a debt, man. You owe us a debt. National treasure.
Mike Myers, Jim Carrey, we could go on and on.
Yep. Yeah.
The final note in the credits.
Oh, Catherine O'Hara for sure. Yeah.
The final note in the credits to Johnny LaRue, thanks to you, we got our crane shot, is a reference to one of John Candy's recurring characters on SCTV of 1983. Michael Moore was turned down by 47 different film companies before Madonna's Maverick Productions picked up the option.
Yeah, it's because he went to all the other studios and they said, we don't make documentaries.
Michael Moore wrote the screenplay during the first Gulf War in reaction to what he felt was the U.S. government's manipulation of the media and supporting Operation Desert Storm. A deleted scene featured Jim Belushi and Mary Charlotte Wilcox as Canadian border guards wearing beaver hats. They improvised the entire scene, and afterwards, Belushi, a relative newcomer to the comedy scene, told comedy veteran Wilcox, whom he didn't recognize, "You're kind of funny. I should try to get into comedy." The Prime Minister's name comes from two Canadian Prime Ministers, Joe Clark, Prime Minister from 79 to 1980, and Sir John A. Macdonald, Prime Minister from 67 to 73.
Who married his cousin, among other horrible things.
Of the 1800s, I should highlight, not 1967.
Famously a drunk.
Yeah.
During the scene where the U.S. military defense team looks through a list of enemies against whom they can possibly declare war, a picture of aliens in black suits is shown, and Rip Torn, who plays General Dick Panzer, would go on to star in Men in Black in 1970, playing Agent Zed, where he played the head of the MIB agency. And this is probably my favorite one. Wrestling legend Maurice Vachon, the thug who arm wrestles with Rhea Perlman in a bar. Vachon was hugely popular in professional wrestling for over 40 years.
Either the father or uncle of Luna Vachon.
Cinematography, Haskell Wexler. Sorry, let me try that again. Cinematography, Haskell Wexler, edited by Wendy Stansler, Michael Barenbaum, and music by Elmer and Peter Bernstein. Release date September 22nd, 1995. Runtime 90 minutes. The budget $11 million. Who wants to take a guess at the box office?
I don't think it did well.
5 or 6? Not well. I don't think it did well.
5 or 6
million.
Let's say 20 million.
5 or 6 million, 20 million. Well, the overall box office earnings for Canadian Bacon of 1995 was $178 $200,000 and 104.
Oh
I
my
knew it didn't
god.
do well.
Yeah, it was a devastating loss. I remember kind of hearing about this being a loss.
Here's the thing. If you look up the reviews of this movie, Americans don't seem to get it. Or like or it makes them a little mad. Like you look at reviews from American reviewers and they just like don't get it. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. None of the comedy lands, and it's like, what's not landing here? Like,
I find it funny that we just decided, to watch this film at this point in time, because I was literally like watching not more than yesterday or a day before, after I'd watched this film, CBC was talking about Canadian bacon and like showing scenes and referencing this film and how it's like eerily now a documentary. It's like
I was surprised that it hadn't come up more. I was like, oh my god, we're living this movie right now, except for how gung-ho like Americans are about invading Canada, because most Americans are like,
this is bullshit.
no. Because yeah, I think I heard on the news that like the favorability of like Canadians' attitude towards American is at like 50% or like 40. Like we don't like them, but when they asked Americans and polled them, the favorability of Canada is like 90%. Like they love us, but we're over them.
Yeah.
Over it.
But yeah, is the 51st state line something like people joke about all the time, or is that like? Because yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty.
that's eerie. Never
That
heard of it
line
before
stuck
recently.
out like a sore thumb now. When that came
Yeah.
up, I was just like,
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's been the plan all along.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, rewatchability. I mean, I've seen this movie 40 times, and I'll probably watch it 10 more times, at least 5 more times. I love this movie.
I don't like it. I didn't like it, and I still don't like it. I don't like it. I won't watch it again unless I'm forced to. Nope.
You didn't. What didn't you like? You did the humor didn't land for you, or is it just become too real?
There's nobody likable in the film. Everyone's really obnoxious.
There's no one
Maybe it's just too close to reality. I think it's because like maybe if most Americans don't get it, then I understand why. But for me, it's like too on the note, like literally beating the point to death, like over your head, like insanely blunt with the messaging, and I'm just like, okay, like I don't know. That's my. I guess that's. I mean, if Americans still didn't get it, oh my god!
Or
But
don't
like, it was
like
funny.
it, one or the other. It's just like it seems to like turn people off. Like you can find places where this gets panned reviews, and then you just find places where like Canadians are reviewing it. It's just like, oh yeah, this is pretty funny.
I think I read out someone's review. I don't think this is the Strange Brew. I think it was this one. Someone was like, it's too highbrow for lowbrow people, and it's too lowbrow for highbrow people. Like I would have liked it. I think it's the same problem as the last movie. Like the first part of the film was actually quite funny when it was moving along, and then like really like because everybody's really two-dimensional and like very much a caricature. So the latter half of the film just feels like a slog. Like you're just kind of like, okay, I get the joke at this point, and it's like move it along already. Like
a curse of comedies. Comedies like they get to that point where they just need to wrap the very thin plot up, and sometimes that takes a half an hour or even more. And it's just like they burn all their good jokes that they wrote the movie to do early on in the movie.
Well, I mean, that's even if they wrote a lot of jokes. Like I said earlier, Jim Belushi and Wilcox were basically, improvising their scenes and stuff like that. So I mean, there could have been a lot of scene improvisation. Something tells me that Michael Moore isn't a wordsmith. It's probably why he's
or a comedy big. Well, he is kind of a wordsmith. He's a documentarian.
He's a documentarian, but like a comedian wordsmith, I guess he could be more apropos. Like, yeah, he can.
Some of his documentaries do have a humor element, but like I agree with you. Like if you want people to riff, like get Dan Aykroyd, get John Candy. Like he got the cast to not have a script for.
No, the bits were funny. I guess that's the thing. The bits were but like after a certain point, I don't know. Maybe it's the I don't remember liking it at the time either. So I don't think it's like the overabundance of like American crap that we're like it's just too real now. You're just like, oh my god, like it's not a parody. Like this is what some of them are like. But I'm like, there's nobody to root for in this film, so I don't really care
No,
what happens because everybody is really unlikable.
But it's like I think you're supposed to root for Rhea Bur. Like I don't even know.
I'm just like,
but for me, it kicks off with a really funny joke, and it just keeps up that pace. It's kind of the opposite of Strange Brew, where this one I feel like has a nice pace to its humor. It's just like, and there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. So it starts
the beer
off
one
with
was
that whole,
funny.
like,
All the Canadian facts, which I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not a history expert. I don't know. I guess if he's saying this happened at that time with the Gulf War, but like I don't know how Fox News was at that time, but like the Fox News, it really was like the Fox News network. Facts about Canada was pretty amusing, at least from a Canadian perspective. They've amassed 90% of their population along the border. Like, yeah, all that was really great. But that was early on, so
they built the tallest tower in the world, and none of our scientists can figure out what it does. I doubt their scientists even know what it does. They're so offended by that tower because it's like this phallic symbol in the movie, and they're like, oh, they think they're better than us because of that big phallic tower. We'll show them. Like, but yeah, it just starts off with that like $25 to like talk somebody down, or 50 to fish them out of the river.
Yeah, that was a great. I forgot about that joke.
He's kind of going. Jump, Roy boy.
Yeah, my rewatchability for this film, I would say, yeah, I probably might watch this once or twice again. You know, give it a little more examine, especially maybe around the end of the year, see how the political climate pans out, see how much they got accurate, see if we get invaded at all, stuff like that. And just one further point, the Mary Charlotte Wilcox that I mentioned earlier, she's been in like SCTV, but she was also in The Adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie's Strange Brew. She played a nurse in that film, and I don't know if you guys remember this one.
No.
Maniac Mansion. I know Gavin knows Maniac Mansion.
The only reference I know that is a video game that preceded Day of the Tentacle, but I don't know if they're connected. But is a point and click adventure game that was amazing.
They are connected, but they're not connected.
Oh,
yes, they took the name from that game and made it nothing like that. Like,
oh, boo!
Yeah. So I used to watch that all the time, starring George Buza as a kid in adult form.
Yep.
And yeah, great show. I used to watch Maniac Mansion all the time. Joe Flaherty.
Yeah.
What's his name? John Hemphill, who you may know from Schitt's Creek. He was in that. He played a fly.
Was there a giant tentacle?
Oh yeah, the fly. I forgot about the fly.
Yeah. He turned his brother into a fly. Like Joe Flaherty's an inventor. He turned his son into an adult.
But there are no talking, walking tentacles that are 6
Not
feet
that
tall?
I know of.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
A really good point and click adventure game. Classic. Highly recommend
it. It is a good show. Like a lot of the episodes were written by like SCTV people like Martin Short and stuff. So it was pretty funny.
Oh.
But and does it hold up? It's become more up. It's thrust itself up.
It's so up, it's relevant again.
Mm-hmm.
This is like
I think okay, maybe to like deflate the like how eerie prophetic this entire film is. As a film on its own, you're right, Jessica, it is a bit 2D. It is a bit dry in the character development, and a lot of the same jokes are sort of hammered home, and like there's that whole scene. Yeah, there's like that whole scene where that could have been one of my things, but they're talking about, they're around the campfire, they're talking about how black guys always die in films and stuff like that, and they talk about like
he starts listing off all the movies.
Yeah, Forrest Gump and Jurassic Park and stuff.
I was like, is that a new joke? Because I guess yeah, from my now current day perspective, I was like, that's a very tired joke that's been done to death. But I don't know if it was done to death in the 90s. Is it? once.
I don't think
I
it was.
feel like that was one of those scenes where they really like hammered. They tried to keep hammering the joke and trying to punch the punchline, but it was just like it was overdone. But I remember that sort of specific thing.
A great joke by Bill Nunn about along those same lines is they're in that weapons auction. And he's like, I got to get out of here. All these white people and guns are making me nervous. And John Candy snaps him. He goes, will you quit it with that white people stuff? You got me looking at him funny.
Yeah, that's a good line. And then the other one where they're at the hockey thing and he talks to him and he's just like, how come you guys don't play this sport or anything? He's like, listen, you really want us taking over all the sports? And then at the end of the film, yeah, and then at the end of the film, they're like, everyone's like, he served one less term. Kevin Pollak served 3 years and a life term sentence after he was acquitted by the next president. And then Dunn's character was like the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs and won like 3 Stanley Cups.
I forgot that was the kind of one thing that reminded me that like the age of the movie was they were so pissed about us winning their baseball.
Series.
They're like, that's our game. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the height of our like Blue Jays. Like this is our world championship Blue Jays era. Like we were
Oh yeah, they said they cheated. They're like, they cheated to take our World Series. It's like that's why they're going to war.
The Jays won in '92 and stuff like that, right?
And 92
and
like 93. 2 years in a row.
Like 92, 94.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Joe
I was at the CN Tower the day Joe Carter hit the home run that won us the World Series.
Oh, wow.
Dude, the pop must have been insane.
We played laser tag with his family when they had laser tag at the CN Tower that morning before the game. And then he signed my brother's laser tag score sheet.
That's cool.
I remember Jessica, you've been the deciding vote here tonight. You've saved Strange Brew from the sea, and you've removed Canadian bacon from the A's.
Yeah. Take that, Americans.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's.
How dare you look at our country like we're faultless? No,
we're running a little long in the tooth here tonight. But I don't know. This one probably won't have us chatting as much. No,
sorry.
No. We're rusty at this. Like we got in shape there, and we got our timing down to like 2 hours. But it took a long time.
We're just being on theme about things going over long and really needing to.
Yeah, exactly. So in Theater 3, we have I Like Movies from 2022, starring Isaiah Lettinen, Romina Dugo, and Krista Bridges, directed by Chandler Levack. And why did you pick this movie, Murphy?
Well, I picked this film because I saw the trailer originally when it was being like hyped for TIFF at the time, and I thought it looked interesting. It seemed like a theme that I could get with, the fact that it was set in the early 2000s, which being basically of that age and stuff like that. I thought I'd be interested to see how they, revive blockbuster culture, and I think that's what appealed to me when I first saw the trailer for this film.
I think they were my age. Like, I think they say the year they graduated high school, and I'm pretty sure it was the same year I did.
Yeah, basically.
2003, 1 year.
2002.
1 year older than me.
No, it was 2002.
Oh yeah, 2000.
Because...
No, but 2003 because he was accepted to the class of 2003. So I think the movie was set in October of 2002.
Yeah, it was set in 2002 because Punch Drunk Love had come out, and he was like raving about this film and stuff like that.
He's a Sandler guy.
Yeah, he's a Sandler guy. So yeah, I have seen the trailer. I'm gonna assume you guys probably never seen the trailer for this film.
No.
All right. Well, I mean, let me.
I found it on Netflix.
You there? Why, me, sir? What night is it? It's Rejects night. What?
This trailer's gonna make it look more of a comedy than it is.
This assignment was to do a video essay on bias in the media.
I'm sorry. I just think that you should make films about things that matter to you. What are you filming? Clouds. Okay, stop.
I won a ton of awards.
Yeah.
Movies are my entire life. I need to watch movies like I need to breathe air.
You
You guys finding everything okay today?
Do you work here?
No. I just wanted to give you a hard copy of my resume. I'm very good at beginning with the end in mind, which for me is going to NYU Tisch School for the Arts.
I just don't understand why you won't apply to Canadian universities.
Because I don't want to be like a Canadian filmmaker.
What about Adam McGuane or David
Cronenberg. Oh my God.
How many advanced copies of Shrek do you think you can sell?
Donkey.
I thought I got hired here to talk about real
He's like
cinema.
one. I'm pretty sure I could do one.
Inventory.
None.
So how long have you worked here for?
4
The
years.
Jones
That's
Soda
like
cameo? Fuck
a really
yes.
long time. Did you ever want to do anything else? Like have a career?
I have a career.
I was wondering what you thought about me coming to New York.
I don't know. When I moved to New York, I see myself becoming like a completely
He was
different
such a
person.
dick
So you're
in
just
this
not going to want to
scene.
be my friend?
Mom, I want to go to NYU.
Yeah, I can't afford
Oh,
you to
Sarah
go to
Pauly likes
NYU
it.
because your single mom is a secretary.
There have been some reports of emotional instability.
Look, I know that you can tell that Lawrence is not like a regular kid. I can. He has serious emotional problems.
I can't believe my job is to make you feel good about yourself. You are very privileged, Lawrence.
I don't feel privileged.
It didn't come off as a love letter to movies.
So
I found
depressing
that
to know that I have to go through the rest of my life as like me.
Maybe you should go to a party.
No. I like movies.
So, if I might say a word, see, my issue with I liked this movie, but my issue with it is kind of reminiscent of Jessica's problem with Canadian Bacon. Is there was no one to cheer for in this movie. Like I like the girl who works at the video store fine and everything, but the main character, she calls him out for it in the movie. She's like, "You are a narcissist, dude," and he is. And I cannot cheer for narcissist characters. I know we're supposed to feel for him because his dad committed suicide and all this stuff, but like, it doesn't matter to me. I can't cheer for a narcissist character. I was annoyed by his narcissism by most of the movie, but at the same time, he was a very good actor, the kid, and it did have a lot of heart. This movie, and it had some funny scenes as well, but man, I did not like there's no one to cheer for me. I was just like, this kid pisses me off. And then at the end, he just like asks these people questions about them, and that's supposed to make it all better. He's like, there, he learned, and he asked somebody about them.
Every time you thought someone
Okay,
said
might as
something
well
to
talk
him,
about the
you
movie
were
then.
like, this is his light bulb moment. He's gonna figure it out, and then he would say something like so overwhelmingly selfish, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna strangle this kid.
Yeah, so the film is shit. I already forget his name. Lawrence is what I think they were calling
Lawrence
him.
Yeah, his name
Queller?
is Lawrence.
Yeah.
Queller, I think?
Queller or Zweller or something like that.
Yeah, so Isaiah Lettinen, he basically plays Lawrence Queller, and he has a friend named Matt McCartchick. And Matt McCartchick is played by Percy Hines White. And if you guys don't know, I personally recognize him from the Fox show The Gifted, if you guys ever watched that.
I did watch that show. Yeah.
I don't remember if I did, but he looked really familiar, and I couldn't figure out if it was actually because I recognized him or he looks like someone else.
Did you watch Wednesday with
Who was he in The Gifted?
He was Andy Strucker. He was one of the Strucker kids.
One of the Strucker twins.
Yeah, one of the Strucker twins. And if you watch the Wednesday show with Jenna Ortega, he plays Xavier Thrope in that.
He looked familiar, but it also could be that he looks like someone else. Like I feel like it could be that he looks like a
kind of a bit of a similar look, but he's very much.
That's what me and Murphy were saying before we started. We're like, everyone in that movie looks like somebody else.
But I was when we were talking about what movie I was going to choose, I recommended Angus, and I was like, dude, this kid looks like the kid from Angus. Like I was like, I was kind of sad that those two weren't the choice because I'm like, they're kind of same. Like he looks a lot.
We'll have you back for that one.
Love that movie. It would have gone well with this one.
So Percy Hines White, he's actually from St. John's, Newfoundland.
Newfoundland, you say?
And the other guy, the main character, I looked up, he's from BC. I was like,
you're not Burlington.
Not even from Ontario.
The Burl. They call it
Call Burlington crappy, and you're from BC.
So yeah, this film basically opens up with
pretty nice.
Lawrence and this film basically opens up with Lawrence and Matt and their Rejects Night video, which is very TikTok YouTube coded in the editing style, and I think that's where Lawrence's strengths lie. Is he's a YouTube editor at the end of the day. He fantasizes about being a great filmmaker, and he's a narcissistic little shit and thinking he's going to get into NYU and all these things, and he's very privileged, entitled, and demanding, and he's so bloody annoying throughout the film. But
Not
slowly
nice to
that
his mom. Like she,
not much nice to his mom, but yeah, like
she's kind of a shit to him too. But
Yeah, I was just gonna say she's not a great mom either.
Yeah, but not to get ahead. But they had this this Rejects Night video where it's sort of these kids are always like playing like they're on Saturday Night Live. It's their thing. So Jessica, you said this was your favorite scene. So you see most of it in that trailer there, but this is the end of it.
It's PT Cruiser lifestyle.
PT Cruiser.
I thought, oh my god, I love that. It's so nostalgic.
We got some 41.
I remember when those came out new. I think I was in like grade 6.
Big Shiny Tunes 99.
Hey man,
Dance
Big
Mix
Shiny
95.
Tunes. First three Big Shiny Tunes were banging.
Big Shiny Tunes is good. The Swiss Chalet sauce.
This is the best.
Just like, let's just move around. We'll just like.
Very Canadian.
That chalet
shit places.
sauce
like
was
that.
like the last thing I missed when I became
This is
vegetarian.
motherfucking rejects night.
I think because I binged watched all these 3 movies, and I thought actually it was kind of a fun for thematically. I think a reason why I like that scene was because I started with Canadian Bacon, which was very much an American idea of what Canadians are, and then there was Strange Brew, which is like the parody of Canadianness by Canadians, but in a Canadian environment, because the rest of the movie, they're the only ones that are a parody. Everything else is very Canadian. And then this was like nice, like breath of fresh air of like, this is actually like obviously Canadian content made by a Canadian. And like when I saw the Swiss Chalet sauce, I was like, yeah, there we go. Like it was refreshingly actually a Canadian perspective for once. So I really liked it.
And then like the driving around Burlington and like seeing like the things and like even like the brief glimpse of the obvious Dollarama sign, but you don't see all of it. You just see the AMA and like the D.
I had to like look up. I was like, wait, was there Dollaramas in Ontario in 2002? Like I felt like they came a little later.
There was a Dollarama right next to a Shoppers Drug Mart.
Yeah, when I saw the Shoppers, that was more like, Shoppers Drug Mart on there. I have to guess that her local, the writer's like movie store was a Rogers, because that was very, very close to the Rogers video outfit, and it was very corporate, which was like Rogers was that was my local movie theater, like the rental place when I was growing up was Rogers rental.
No, we didn't just have Blockbuster. There was also Jumbo's Video.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of Jumbos around.
Yeah, I remember the
Video Difference was good if you were.
I think
Video
like Rogers,
Difference was the king.
Yep, sure was.
So Rogers took over. I feel like Rogers Video took over
Jumbo
a different
Video.
franchise.
Yeah. Rogers Video
I
took
remember
over
it wasn't
Jumbo
always.
Video.
But that was my local one, and it looked very close. Their outfits were kind of like that with the red polos and.
So
kids who may be watching, we're talking about renting movies where you would
you
take a video off the wall.
The entire basis of this film.
Please be kind, rewind, all that shit.
Yeah, all the things that happened within this very film. So basically we're introduced to Lawrence. They're in a media class and their teacher's like, what is this dog shit you just gave me? I asked for an examination on media bias. And Lawrence just has like an artistic little freak out. And he's like, I just don't want to make about media biases because I'm bored with that. It should be about things I want to make. And then the teacher's begging with him like, you have a deadline. You're not meeting the deadlines. I've asked for a year-end video. Where is it? And Lawrence, being the untalented little hack that he is like, thinking about it, twiddling my thumbs. gotta get done. And Matt, the guy, he's basically using his dad's camera and taking advantage of his friendship and all this stuff, you know, is trying to back his play. They spend
I
their
think we've all
Saturday.
known a couple Lawrences in our life.
Yeah. So Matt and them, they spend their Saturday nights watching Saturday Night Live. They call it Rejects Night, and they're at Lawrence's house watching an episode. And Davin, you said this was your favorite scene, where
because it's brutal, man.
He just
It's fucking
brutalizes
brutal.
his mom.
Me and Matt can't have Rejects Night with you here.
Well, I'm sorry, but I live here.
Yeah, but like, we can't be our truest selves with you around.
This is a really small house. Where would you like me to go?
I
To
hate
your
him.
room.
To my room? How about you go to your
I'm
room,
in my
Lawrence?
room. My room is the couch.
Well, you know, I'm sorry you can't do Rejects Night in a big fancy house tonight.
I'm just trying to watch SNL with my best friend, and now we're missing the Hanukkah song with a special guest appearance from Rob Schneider, which I'll probably never get to see again. Can you please just go?
Again!
The internet. At least as we know it.
How do you stand him, man?
Yeah, not deserved, but also not stellar parenting there.
No. Well, later
So
she says,
Cartman.
it's like, I think
Yeah,
your
she
father
gets, like,
committing suicide was
really
smart.
weird on the weekends.
Because get away from you, you little shit. And he's like, whoa.
Oh yeah. There's a few moments in this film.
Not funny at all. He breaks in every sketch, ruined the Weekend Update.
He's right about Jimmy Fallon.
Yes, Jimmy Fallon hate is well deserved. That's like, okay, I agree with that. Yeah, there was a few times where this kid talked, and I actually audibly was like,
Yeah.
It's like, what a kid! Whoa, just no social filter, like completely like inept in all social standings.
not even inept. Like everything he says, it's not like, oh, I'm super awkward and like, you know, like he's just an asshole. Like
Yeah.
the things he says are just mean.
Yeah.
And you
No,
kind of
he-
like, there's no way to know, but you kind of get the impression that he was that asshole before the suicide of his father. Like, I don't know, maybe that's not the case, but you get the feeling that has just been his personality.
It
That's
just
why he
added
has one
fuel to
friend.
the.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the failing for me in this film was there wasn't very many scenes where they portrayed him to be any kind of outcast. Like he embarrassed himself after that in that thing, but he seemed to have quite a lot of confidence where he just like stood up and talked like, I have social anxiety. Like that, I was just like, oh my God, stop talking. Like, shut up. If someone did that to me, I would not be friends with them and I would never speak to them again. If they like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. It's like even the kid's mom's like, how do you endure this child? It's like, he's
don't
my
really-
only friend.
Yeah, I don't get that though. I don't really understand what he saw in him. I mean, it kind of implied very briefly that
when you grow up and like somebody's willing to be nice to you when you're younger, you just kind of keep hanging out with that person until ultimately you drift away from that person due to life circumstances and stuff like that.
but he didn't seem like that's the thing, I guess. They didn't seem to show them struggling to socialize, so he didn't really understand. Like his friends seemed to have no problem talking to that girl, and like except for his friend being a total d-bag and like cock blocking him at every opportunity. Like
yeah, well,
and
that also
like
pissed me off. It was like, this guy sucks.
Well, like I just didn't see anything where people were mean to him or like rude to him or he was ostracized except for in response to his own terrible behavior. Like it wasn't like, oh man, like look at this fat kid or whatever reason they laughed at him. Like people were avoiding him because he was being a little shit. So like I didn't really, when they kind of like, I felt a little like weird. I kind of got that they were trying to say like he wanted to escape and become this big person because he hated himself, but like he was the causing his own hatred. Like I don't know, it was very odd.
There's a term that was once told to me about an old friend of mine who would act in similar fashion, and it was like my friend had said this about another friend. I'm gonna omit names, but basically my friend had said about the other friend, he's complaining about the waves in his own pool because he keeps splashing about instead of just being calm and enjoying the pool, you know. And that's sort of the similar attitude to where Lawrence has, and his whole sacred haven is this store called Sequels Video, which is Blockbuster coded and all that stuff. And he goes into the store to return his movie, and he like casually tosses it in there. And then he was like, "Oh, I want to go rent like 5 movies." And his mom's like, "You get one." And he ends up picking like Buffalo 65. Drops off a resume.
He gets the joke though. Oh, don't skip over that joke.
What joke? What?
What's the last movie he cuts?
Oh, Sophie's Choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Between Sophie's
one
Choice
other
and Buffalo
movie and
60, so he gets rid of
Choice, and he
Sophie's Choice.
drops Sophie's Choice.
Yeah, I did
hilarious.
enjoy that joke. Before he gets in line to the film, though, he's sort of like putting about, and there's this pregnant woman and this father, husband and wife combo, and they're like, "Oh, let's watch this shitty comedy." She's like, "I don't want to watch that," and they're like arguing, and he's like, "Oh, can I recommend a film?" And he starts like reading off the most horrific summary. Like it sounds like it's a fake film, but he's like, "Oh yeah, like John Belushi's like." Yeah, like a pedophile and this and that and all this stuff. And I was like, that movie does not sound like a comedy. And I was half expecting the people to be like, no. But they took his advice and they grabbed it. They're like, yeah, that sounds great. Like
that's what I think had the problem. Like it was played for comedy, but I was like, no one was ever shown reacting poorly to him when he wasn't being like, except for when he was being a total douchebag. So it was like, you don't seem to have problems approaching people, socializing, like
when it comes to movie, he's very confident, but anything else he's not, but the manager of the sequels video,
she's nice to him anyway, despite his dickishness.
Yeah, she's what was her name again? It was Alana. She's played by Romina Dugo, maybe. Anyway. Yeah, Alana sort of notices that he was managed to sell a DVD. She kind of takes interest in that. She accepts the paper, resume, hard copy, all that stuff. And then the next day, he ends up getting a call to go in for an interview. And she was down a person. She ends up hiring the kid. Just thinking, maybe he's not so bad. And he starts working at, this sequels video. He starts trying to do the job, and he's thinking he's going to be Mr. I thought I was here to sell films. They're like, how many Shrek films can you? It's like, that's not a film. I can't sell any of those. It's like, I'm going to put you down for 3. Like he's gets
it's better. He's like, no, that movie came out like 3 years ago. They're like, yeah, but it's like a re-release with a couple
special
minutes of extra
scenes.
footage. He's like, well, then I can't sell any. He's like, it's fucking re-release.
That was the nail in the coffin for me not liking that kid. I was like, are you besmirching the great film that is Shrek, sir? Forget it.
He was
no hope for you. No hope for you.
Did you get in on that re-release?
Shrek is love. Shrek is life. No, I'm just kidding.
Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Yes.
I've never seen that movie.
Shrek is love. Shrek
You've
is
never
life.
seen Shrek?
No.
You've never seen the ending?
No.
You have a daughter who would love Shrek.
Mike, we'll watch it.
Come on, like the merry men, everything. My dad always jokes that there's a joke bit in the movie where he's like running away from the monster, and he goes through like the Disneyland lineup. So he goes through all the like stanchions or whatever those are. Instead of running away, he's like, ah. My dad's like, I made that joke at Disney World. It's funny.
Do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man? Yes, the Muffin Man. The one who lives by Drury Lane? Yes. Not the Muffin Man.
That and the
gumdrop buttons.
When they do the magic mirror and they show all the princesses' potential. Pick 3, my lord. Whole thing in place. Oh my god, such a good movie. Like, how does he like movies when you don't like Shrek? It's
Right, well, I'll go check it out. I don't know. I think when it came out, I was just like, why is Mike Myers doing a fat bastard voice?
Because it was supposed to be Chris Farley. Going back to our great losses, it was a Chris Farley film. He was supposed to be played by Chris Farley, so he played it straight because he took over, and it just didn't work with Mike Myers' regular voice. And then he went and added a Scottish accent. Yeah, we could have had a Chris Farley Shrek, which also I think would have been charming as well.
Would have. So yeah, he starts getting used to the work life. Matt and him are still kind of struggling to make the film. Matt wants to include this girl, talented editor called Lauren P. Lawrence is too obnoxious, narcissistic, and self-righteous to even consider the holy idea that somebody should work on his project. And I'm like, sitting there, me as somebody who like does stuff like this, I'm like, yes, hire the competent editor to edit your shitty video, my guy. Like, go film it and then let her do the work instead of trying to struggle with iMovie that has low memory.
Instead of I Like
and-
Movies, they should have called this movie Nobody Likes Lawrence.
But yeah, so Matt and you know, Lawrence is super like, I'm gonna get into NYU, and Matt and Lawrence have this sort of like friendship breakup talk as he's staying over Matt's place, and Matt's like, what if I went to New York with you? Which Lawrence could have easily been like, yeah, that's sweet, let's move to New York together and do what the fuck ever, like. But he's like, oh, you're just like a transitionary friend, and has this like one
That
of
made
those
me gasp.
bullshit tracks.
What? And then he had the audacity to be like, why aren't we friends anymore? Dude, you called him a fucking
let's do reject night.
placeholder friend.
Right?
What? I cannot with this
He's the
kid.
biggest dick of all time.
The
And
absolute
then when he says to the
obliviousness.
manager too about just like being like a I don't know, something about her trauma, and he's just like, oh, like just belittling her trauma and all that shit. So it's like,
Well, yeah,
Go to the
okay.
cops.
Yeah, okay. So not to get too far ahead, but yeah, so he starts, working the store and all this stuff. And he starts getting to like and try to like learn about, Alana and stuff like that. And this is actually my favorite scene in the film, because this is the one that made me laugh out loud. They're kind of doing inventory late at night, and
Alana, what did you take at Guelph?
Oh,
she sort of announces she works at Guelph's
Really?
theater.
What did you want to be? A director, actor, playwright?
an actor.
Cool.
Yeah. But then, like, my roommate committed suicide in my first year, so then obviously I didn't go back after that. Hey, it's okay. Look, I'm okay now. Can you please make your face into another face? Okay. Okay, just watch the counter. All right, I'm gonna get the steam cleaner. Fucking bastards.
The scene right before
I see why
that,
they
actually-
hired that kid. He's a good actor.
The scene right before that when she's like, "This is the lesbian that just is a hate crime."
This is a hate crime.
It's
Fucking lesbian section. Just leaves a burrito. Yeah, no, the
Oh.
line she's like, "Can you make your face into another face?" I laughed so hard at that scene. I thought it was brilliant. That's what made me really like her character from that moment. I found myself
She's the
more
best character.
enjoying her scenes and everything she was bringing to the film more so than like Lawrence. Like, I was not enjoying Lawrence, and I was like starting to kind of root for Alana, and I want to see where her character goes. And as Lawrence's sort of story develops throughout this film, he ends up realizing like he's trying to save money for NYU, which he's come to getting his first paycheck, realizing that's not going to happen anytime soon.
He knows nothing about the world at all. Like, he
Yeah,
didn't know that there
whatsoever.
was going to be taxes taking off his paycheck. He was stunned by everything.
Yeah,
He just honestly came off as like walking white privilege. Like,
Yeah.
he just in his mind is super great, and things should just be given to him because of how amazing he is. And he's just mad that no one recognizes his greatness. But yeah, that whole like, how do I not understand how paychecks work?
Like, where's all my
everything's, like-
money? I've been working nonstop.
Everything becomes progressively like harsher realities for him, and his mom starts being like, well, you should really apply to like a backup Canadian school, and he starts like, biting the
Carleton.
bullet on signing up for Carleton and Ottawa and stuff like that, and expecting like the NYU rejection and all these things. And he starts having like a mad breakdown almost at he's late for work. He's like 40 minutes late, and she's like struggling. Atlanta's there by himself, and he has to like pull himself together after he has basically an anxiety attack. And then it turns into like another inventory scene where I kind of forget the series of events, but there's like there's sort of like three scenes that happen. Alana ends up explaining that she did not, in fact, have her roommate commit suicide. In fact,
No, she
that
had an audition at Miramax.
Yeah, she had an audition at Miramax.
What a weird
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
It is super weird.
It's just very
Made me
weird.
kind of not like her. Like,
Yeah, it's just very weird. Like I could read into it and maybe she thinks that's a way to like shut people down from asking further questions to hide her real trauma, but like that's me as an audience trying to like explain a very weird story element.
Yeah, I think maybe the Miramax thing was sort of like a tip. Not, I can't remember. Was that actual line or was that a joke by
no,
you,
that's
Devin?
me telling. That was me.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, she ends up like having this meeting and basically she gets raped by a producer.
Weinstein.
Yeah, a Weinstein like, and it scars her from the business, and she can never really get work after that, and then she
tries for like 10 more years until she just
Six, I think she said. Yeah,
like that,
six,
yeah.
and then then 4 years at the movie store.
Yeah, and then she basically gets so much debt she moves back to Burlington, lives with her parents, has been working 4 years at the store. Lawrence ends up, trying to it's coming to the end of his school year. He tries to reconcile with Matt and he's like, oh, why don't we watch, Saturday Night Live? You come pick me up at the store and blah, blah, blah. And we'll go. And then Matt sort of agrees, but ultimately bails on him to go hang out with Lauren.
I mean, when you say reconcile, he did not apologize. He never said sorry. He just tried to play it off like nothing had happened. So
yeah,
he did not make
I say
any
weekly
effort.
reconcile. Yeah, like he makes
very
a
weekly.
little attempt. Yeah, he wants to reconcile, but he's not really making any effort for it. Yeah. So Matt, just doesn't bother, and he gets left at the store. And this is the part of the story that bugs me because throughout the film, there's his co-workers there, Brendan and Shannon, I think her name was. But yeah, there's the Brendan guy played by Andy McQueen, and he's basically like treating Lawrence like a buddy, co-worker, buddy-esque sort of deal. And Lawrence is like, I'll just stay here at the shop for the night. And Brendan's like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'll drive you home. He's like, no, I can't go home. Why can't you go home to your own home?
Because he doesn't want his mom asking questions, I guess, about why he's not at his friend's house. But
okay.
As soon as he said, don't forget the code, I was like, oh, come on, no.
Yeah. It's like, don't get me in trouble here. It could be a lot of thing, And of course, it's don't forget the code. And he does. So the kid basically wakes up the next morning, doesn't put the code in, walks away from the door, and then like $5,000 worth of merch was stolen from the store. Apparently, somebody just like walked in and took a bunch of stuff. And he goes in for this whole thing between Alana and apparently like a business head for the store.
That guy was funny.
Someone from corporate, yeah. That's why I was guessing Rogers because that was like felt very Rogers. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, okay. So earlier I mentioned that he was having like that anxiety attack, and this is I kind of liked how they revealed that his dad committed suicide when she was like, "Hey, I know you recognize Lawrence isn't a regular kid, and he does all this stuff, and he probably uses his dad's suicide as an excuse." And Alana's like, what? Like while trying to like maintain a professional work atmosphere and all this stuff. And she like forces that. So I thought that was an interesting way to reveal that because they sort of allude to his dad being, you just assume not with them and like somewhere else. But he has ended up committing suicide, and that sort of messes with the kid. And you sort of start to understand his broken mentality, selfish mentality a bit. Not sympathizing it, but I guess you can kind of get where he's coming from. So yeah, there's that whole stuff, and Brendan and whatnot. So Lawrence ends up getting not fired, but put on 3-week probation. Brendan's the one that got fired because he left, and it's just dirty, like, man. They did him dirty, and there's no resolution to that.
Yeah, he doesn't go and apologize. Nothing. Like he never makes amends to that guy.
Sorry, guy. It's such that's the one part of the story that probably made me the maddest over this kid. It's like, wait, you're gonna fire the guy that's just trying to be a nice dude, and nobody's even blinking about it or thinking, oh no. It's like, no, things were bust. It's like, so we're gonna keep this kid on for 3 weeks, and then you know,
Yeah,
in
I
this
didn't
whole
understand why
art.
that was not immediate firing of the kid
Yeah.
too. It was very weird.
No, it took the kid the extra step of being an asshole and being weird by getting into an argument with Alana in front of corporate and arguing about, all their bullshit, and then he blurts out that he loves her because I don't know if
Mhm.
you guys forgot about the scene earlier, but
No,
there's that scene
definitely
where
didn't
he's
forget.
fucking on his couch and he just like pulls the like blanket up and starts jerking it until his mom finds him and like he's
I
clearly like thinking about his boss.
Well,
Okay, I
earlier,
read this so wrong. I thought because they showed the movie he was watching was Spartacus. And so I thought
thought
like
he
the
was
whole
gay.
problem with I thought his whole problem with his best friend was that he was in love with him and he didn't
Yeah.
want him to come because he was like wants to get over his best friend and like that's why he feels so awkward because like he's gay and he's not out and like he doesn't want his friend to come with him because he wants to be free to like be gay and like and then I thought I was like yeah okay he's jerking off to Spartacus that makes sense like shirtless dudes like I did not think he was thinking about his boss. I read that
I thought
totally
it
wrong.
I thought it was because I remember like seeing him like have like a quick flashback memory of Alana right before he kind of starts doing that.
Okay, maybe
So
I
it sort
missed
of like
that.
triggers.
That's following up on the joke from earlier in the movie too, where he's like, "I can't believe you don't jerk off." He's just like, "What? It's not for me." He's like, "I tried it. It's not for me."
I like movies.
Yeah, I think I like movies. Yeah.
So yeah,
The wild
the
thing
kid has the big
reference.
blow up, and then yeah, basically this is where the movie starts wrapping up. He has his mother cut his hair poorly as a sort of sign of shedding his old self, and like starting to
The old
try and
buzz
like
cut.
learn his own ways. Gets the
I thought
buzz
it was because
cut.
he was a hair ripper, and then I was
Oh
super
yeah,
confused why he
that's
didn't have.
right.
He doesn't have
He
bald
had a-
spots in his back because I've like worked with people who rip hair and usually have like big pieces missing from
Yeah.
you like ripping your hair out.
Yeah. Throughout the film, he's like ripping his own hair out, and his mother notices the
I,
bald
I was
patch.
disappointed nostalgia wise that we never got to see. Maybe it was out of fashion by this point. Do you guys remember like the very gelled hair and then that little flip at the top that was like around in like the night like
Dippity
that
doo.
era? It was like a little, just a weird little hair flip right at the front. That was really big at that time. I was like kind of hoping to see that.
Yeah, I know which one. Like it's like all glued down and just
And
the
then
bangs.
yeah, like a little crown at the front of the head.
Yeah, what was that band? B-52 or something like that, or whatever. B-44. There was a pop band where it
Oh
was
my
like those
god.
two
Before
guys.
yeah,
I
that was
think it
the
was.
spiky tips, the bleached tips.
Yeah.
And the oh my god, they had the best not very subtle sex joke. If you get
Yeah.
down on me, I'll get down on you.
We gotta wrap this up, Murphy. There's no way that baby's gonna keep falling asleep. She keeps crying and keeps falling back asleep.
Oh no. I'm wondering, oh my gosh, probably same here.
All right, yeah. All right. So anyway, Lawrence fucking gets his hair cut, ends up
be back.
accepting Ottawa, hands off to Ottawa. And then he ends up meeting up with Alana at a Subway, and they sort of reconcile.
I wonder if that was a Subway. It looked like a generic sub shop, but then also was very
Yeah.
Subway with the cheese bread. I was like, that's a Subway.
Yeah,
I guess
it
they
was-
didn't have
it
the
was-
rights to the
It was totally
logos.
Subway. They just didn't quite say it, but yeah. So yeah, Subway, whatever. He's ended up having a deal with Lana. Lana tells him her favorite film is Steel Magnolias. After they have all this talk, he's like, I want to know the real thing. What's your favorite film? Turns out to be Steel Magnolias. He ends up going to Carleton University, has a Steel Magnolias poster, starts reading a book, and then like this cute girl walks in. She's like, hey, I hear the rooms are bigger in here. And she starts making a friend, and he starts making friends, starts asking questions, and follows along with her. And basically the end of the movie. And they have this nice little conversation. They start talking about where everyone's from, Burlington and Toronto and BC and yada yada. And that's the end of the film. That's like I like movies.
That kind of goes back to what Davin was saying that nobody like the suburbs, same things or whatever. And they were like,
Mm.
where the hell's Burlington? I never know with Canadians, like I'm from like, how much knowledge they have of the outer suburbs of Toronto. You never know.
I didn't know about Burlington until I moved to Toronto, and then started getting to recognize the
Like
other
yeah, the
suburbs.
whole thing. I
did
don't know how much.
I did eventually visit Burlington for a day when I had to film for the Ontario 150 tour. There was like a Ontario's 150th birthday. They had all these like free shows. and
yeah,
and they
I
they
remember
did a
that.
show in Burlington, Ontario, and I think it was the Bare Naked Ladies that performed that set. I can't quite remember, but either way,
Sounds familiar.
yeah, it was basically a big free concert set they held on. It was pretty cool. It was a cool summer tour for me back in 2018.
One of my best friends is from Burlington, so that's why I know it. But it's
Yeah.
quite far from Toronto. But yeah, it was a very Canadian conversation. Like, where the hell's that? Oh, it was just outside of Toronto.
That was the most
yeah.
genuine Canadian conversation at the end of
Yeah.
that film. I was like, I've had this conversation with multiple people. Like that felt like the most Canadian moment in a lot of, and pretty much all these films I felt was
Yeah.
that ending.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like what worked only is that, like, I feel like the actor himself seems like a very charming kid, and that kind of
Yeah.
came through, even though he was playing a total D-bag. But like, it just felt weird, especially that I found out, obviously, my whole gay theory was wrong about his best friend. Although he did tell him he loved him. So I don't know, maybe he's bisexual. I have no idea, or he just wants to be loved. I don't know, but
I think
like,
he just wants to be loved.
yeah, it's strange to me because like he just didn't seem, and right at the end didn't seem to have any issues with talking to people and them responding to him. So like, it just didn't, he didn't come off as someone who felt very outcasty. Like, he just felt like someone who believed he was great and everyone should put up with his shit because he's so great. It didn't come off
Narcissist.
as like, yeah, yeah, he didn't come off as like a social outcast. He just came off like a total asshole. And like, I just didn't really get where they were going. And especially when I found out that the writer and director was a woman, and I was like, I'm very confused as to where this movie was coming from.
I
Almost
feel
like
like
the whole thing is confusing. Yeah.
I feel like that film technically was coming from the point, more or less, the perspective of Alana. Like that's where she probably and she probably worked with some annoying little shit kid, and then she just probably expanded on the story and made him even worse.
Yeah, it almost kind of felt like, I guess I'm just interpreting that like she wanted to make a nostalgic movie about her childhood, but was too nervous or afraid, or it was too raw for her. So she kind of put a step away from herself. Like, it was like, I'm too uncomfortable making it about myself. I'm gonna make it about this, like, kid. And it was just like, hey, what if we made a coming of age story where the main character is completely unlikable?
Yeah, that's basically what this was.
All it came off for at the ending when he's talking to those people is like, what you just showed me is kind of more like, it didn't look like he learned a lesson. It seemed like, you've taught a narcissist how to mask their narcissism. That's what it felt like. You're just training him to be better at like hiding what a narcissistic piece of shit he is. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, because even when he was asking the questions at the end, he was just like, "So, where are you guys from? What kind of things do you do? How about this? Do you like?" He just, yeah, like he was like 7 of 9 or something, but just like completely.
Yeah,
like,
when she goes on that date, 7 of 9 goes on that date. That's exactly what she was doing.
Yeah, but yeah, what's the next step? Do we do morsels now?
5 minutes, fun will commence.
Mm.
Right. Which performance would you hold up?
Oh yeah, Alana, 100%. Romina Dugo, Dugo, D''UGO. She was great. She was my favorite person, actor in the film. She grounded the thing mostly, I found, outside of Lawrence's like sort of outlandish narcissistic behavior and Matt's sort of like stoner-esque, like surfer boy-esque mentality, and the brief interactions with Lauren and the principal and everybody else. Like, there's
Matt
really
has
3 characters.
Yeah, Matt has some psychological issues. He just, I don't know what the term is. He just latches onto someone and then just follows. He doesn't know what to do with himself, so he just follows someone else's lead. So now Lawrence is out, so he's going to follow his girlfriend. Like, he just doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah, he's like that mindless rich kid that basically he's like, oh, I've got all this money, but what do I do, man? I just want to hang out and have fun.
I'll say Krista Bridges, the mother.
Yeah, She was good. Every scene it was very like
She was a realist. It seemed
very realist. Very like I was like I've seen my own mother with some of those like frustrated looks, sort of deal, like just like with life and stuff like that. So yeah, no, she played a very believable mom.
I will say the lead, he did what they asked him to do. So even the character was very unlikable. He performed it very well. And actually, I feel like this kid in real life must have some charisma, because there was something about him that was like very like you still
Charming
kind of
and
wanted to watch him. Yeah, it was some charm to him, even though the character itself was. And I feel like that's probably the kid. Probably is a very charming kid in real life. But he
kind of
did
like
a good job.
He had a lot of dialogue, and he said it very well. He performed it very well. Like he had a lot of very convoluted dialogue that he would spit out, and it felt very natural. He was very good. He had a Joffrey Baratheon sort of esque portrayal, in like you don't like the kid, but he's acting so well that you don't like the kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was like a very, his character didn't feel like he felt like a fully, like, this felt like a real person that I would meet and I would hate. Like,
could another actor have made him likable?
No,
so.
because his dialogue
And I don't
his
think that's
action-
the point either, because I don't think this character needed to be likable.
Yeah, I
would
kind of
help
wonder.
the movie.
Yeah, I kind of wonder at like watching this, going like, what made someone want to write this? Like, did they? And I know this is terrible, but like watching this and feeling like, if the point of watching and writing this character was to somehow make them understandable and like see their perspective, I'm like, dude, I think you need to go to therapy and like learn to set some boundaries with some very toxic people, because if you're trying to humanize this type of person, I think you have problems with your social relationships.
This is exactly the kind of movie that does great at a film festival, though. Film
Yes.
festival movies are always like that, where it's just like this person just filmed but should have been their therapy. And usually those directors don't go on to do anything else that people like. Sometimes they do, but usually not. So, because they just have their one therapy project that they got off their chest that people thought was powerful, because it was real, because it was a real thing to them, but like,
yeah,
it's kind of strikes me as that.
The previous movie that Chandler Levesque had made was called We Forgot to Break Up, which was in 2017.
Oh, so she just does therapy movies in that sort of role genre.
Oh, and apparently she directed music videos for the band Pup, which is a Toronto punk band. That's pretty cool.
Setting aesthetic, it made Burlington look ugly. Yeah.
I loved it. It was a very charming nostalgia. I don't like the fact that I'm now talking about it, his like nostalgic look back at the early 2000s. That makes me feel
the early
really
aughts.
shit. But
seeing a video store again was nice.
Yeah, like the setting was charming. I kind of just wish the character was more like.
Well, the PT Cruisers, the burn CDs, the DV cameras, like
the girl with the very, very strong highlights that worked at the movie store.
Yeah. All of it was very time era appropriate. They nailed January in Burlington to a T.
Yeah, I just like, I mean, how often you get to hear big shiny tunes mentioned in a movie? Like,
yeah, it's true.
That part, I do like big shiny tunes.
Oh man, it's great. Kids these days don't understand. You couldn't just pick the one track you liked off of a thing. You had to buy the whole CD.
Yeah, mix albums, baby.
Yeah,
I will say
it was nice to see a video store again, but I never had nostalgia for blockbusters, because to me, I liked independent video stores, because I never liked walking into like a video store and seeing like 70 copies of the same movie on the wall. Like, that's when I stopped going to movie stores, when like blockbusters came around. We didn't have them here for very long.
I never had it. Yeah, Rogers was the one I had, and then like only when I moved downtown as an adult did I get to go to like Queen Video, which was really good. They had everything, but like, yeah, I had a corporate just the Canadian corporate version of a Blockbusters. But honestly, I have to say, when he walked in that store, I felt I could smell it. I felt like I could smell
Smell
the
the
smell
popcorn?
of like
The
rental
popcorn.
movie place. Yeah, but also the plastic from the DVD. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's like a scent. I was like,
There's the
yeah, I
smell.
could almost imagine it just now.
Yeah, I'm back in like Sackville back in the days. There was a convenience store at the end of Bruce Drive on the Sackville Crossroads that my parents would rent movies from, and I remember my mom buying like dollar grab bags of like random plastic toys and like maybe some extra candy, you know, those like surprise bags you could get from a
Oh,
convenience
yeah,
store.
yeah,
She would get those, then a movie, and started collecting X-Men cards. They were like the 95 series of like X-Men cards. I almost got all of them. I think I was missing like 5 basically from that whole series. And yeah, it was that store, and then eventually the Blockbuster had opened up on Sackville Drive next to the sub shop and near the Dunkin' Donuts, close to like Downsview and stuff like that. And then, yeah, it was Blockbuster from that point on. Like I actually have my Blockbuster card.
Nice.
This is my fucking.
I
can barely see it, but
I
what's
don't
my
have
name on
anything
the
that-
back of it with my number?
The only thing I have that's that old is I still have my original scene card from like 2001 or 2002 or something.
Chris Murphy, account number 207-189-26550. Phone number 864-1486.
Wonder if
Well,
you had any late
speaking
fees.
of popcorn smell, that's what we call a segue.
I like movies 2022, 2023. Majority of the video rental store was obtained from an abandoned Blockbuster that had been sitting vacant for around a decade in Owen Sound, Ontario. Asbestos in the store forced the movie crew to find a different building to be the set location, and they found an empty thrift shop in Ajax, Ontario, and built it into the sequel's video store. So this film that's set in Burlington, Ontario, was actually filmed in Ajax.
Or Owen Sound.
Well, it was started to be filmed in Owen Sound, but then the asbestos moved them to Ajax.
So just so you know, if you worked at that Blockbuster in Owen Sound back in the day, sue the shit out of whoever you can. You were working in asbestos the entire fucking time.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Well, get Jim the Hammer Shapiro or whoever, one of those like friggin' sharky lawyers from the States that come up on like when you're watching Jerry Springer back in the day.
I know. Okay, Davin, you probably don't recognize it, but I recognize it. Jessica, I know you did. Do you remember the part in the film with the commercial and
Oh my god, I forgot
the
about
money
that.
guy?
John Oliver, not John Oliver. Oh my god, it's all. What is his name? Cashman. I'm the Cashman.
Cashman. I'm the Cashman. I remember watching the Cashman commercials late at night, watching the CTV City movies.
He's back. He was
Is he?
gone because he went to prison. Went to prison for I don't know how long. And then
Call
he's
yourself
back on TV.
Cashman.
I saw another Cashman commercial or ad, I think on YouTube or something. I was like, oh my god, I'm Russell Oliver. I'll buy you.
Surprise, motherfucker.
So funny.
You
Yeah, oh my god.
I'll give you cash. The scene in which Lawrence watches Full Metal Jacket features a loose reenactment of the dialogue from that film. The voice and dialogue we hear are not really from the movie, presumably since the filmmakers didn't obtain the rights to play an excerpt or recite its actual dialogue. Casting director Jesse Griffiths received roughly 300 Lawrence Queller audition tapes, including one from Gabriel Labelle, who stars in The Fablemans from 2022. Among the many films briefly shown on screen.
Sorry, I recognize
Yeah.
that casting director. I've helped Michael submit tapes for that casting director. It's funny.
Oh, really? Cool. Among the many films briefly shown on screen in this movie is Love That Boy, a Canadian indie movie featuring a pre-fame Elliot Page. And then The Feeling the Movie was uncommercial feeling the movie was uncommercial, distributor Mongrel Media only gave the movie a very limited showing in theaters, making it a box office bomb. The cinematography was Rico Moran, edited by Simone Smith, music by Murray A. Lightburn. Release date March 10th, 2023 nationwide. It was released September 9th in 2022 on TIFF, but yeah. The running time, 99 minutes, and the budget was $225,000. Who wants to take a guess at the box office?
Ooh, can it be
$8.
worse than? Because can it be worse than Canadian Bacon? $100.
$10 bucks.
Wait, it's 100. 200,000.
It is actually worse than Canadian Bacon. It made 151,722.
Even
Canadian Bacon made 178,000.
And that's probably American, right? Versus Canadian.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That hurts.
That would have been $200 million Canadian bucks.
Well, rewatchability. See, the thing is, I would avoid that kid in real life, so I actually can avoid him being in a movie. So I will. I don't think I will watch that kid for an hour and a half ever again.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm gonna say once is enough for me. Yeah.
Yeah, too much like second degree embarrassment. Like
too much cringe.
Shut up.
And does it hold up?
Okay, you guys are just silently shaking. No, I'm gonna say this film actually does hold up. Sorry,
It's not a bad movie. It's confusing and disjointed. That's
not even. It's not confusing and disjointed at all. I mean, the main character and the narcissism are a bit much.
I don't mean the plot's confusing. I mean like the motivations of the people who made it.
Yeah, like I don't know where they were going with it, or like what's like it's just kind of going like what's the point of this film besides being nostalgic about the early 2000s and movie rental stores. Like I didn't really
whatever points it was trying to dig at, I don't think it
didn't come across well. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear the director or writer's comments on it because I didn't really understand what they were getting at with it.
Yeah.
I think the moral of the story, or the Home Alone of it all, as our sister podcast, Hey, Did You See This One would say, is the kid Lawrence is, learning the hard way of the ways of how to act socially in, the grander world that's outside of his very film-oriented bubble. And he, hopefully by going through those hardships, he, becomes a better person. And there's glimmers of that at the end. Glimmers of that at the end of the film. What could, as you guys,
isn't much of a glimmer.
I say glimmers. You guys also appropriately, pointed out that he could just be masking his narcissism, and that's very much what it could have been.
I feel like there's a phrase that goes around the internet in response to a lot of people's bigotry that like stands for this kid. I was just like, I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people. Like, kind of should be obvious.
I think this film would be good for younger audiences to watch and sort of take from the lesson that don't be like this kid.
Don't be like Lawrence. They could have called They could have called this movie "Don't Be Like Lawrence."
Yeah,
and then it would have had a point.
But then you wouldn't have the moment where he says, "I like movies." Like he says it 3 times.
And she says, "I hate movies." Isn't that clever?
Yeah, she hates movies because she had traumatic experiences. Either way, that's I like movies. That's the film.
Fair enough. Murphy saved it. We got 3 B movies tonight. I don't know if that's happened very often.
Triple B's.
Triple B's. This is where we do our Canada, Ontario movie rankings, the ones we just watched. Well, for me, it's easy. It's going to be Canadian Bacon, Strange Brew, and then this one.
For me, it's going to be Canadian Bacon, I Like Movies, and then Strange Brew.
I have to do the other. I'm going to say Strange Brew, I Like Movies, then Canadian Bacon.
We all had a completely different order. And then we have one more segment on this show, and then we can get out of here because it's very late. What are we? Hey, did you see this one? We're about to hit the 3-hour mark.
No, they usually have 4 hours.
Yeah, they'd be at 5 or 6 hours by now, actually. We have Andre's staff picks. So Andre suggests you all go watch Videodrome. Of course, classic David Cronenberg there.
Nope.
Exotica, which was gonna be my pick. I almost made it my pick because it's one I
Which
used to
one
watch.
is Exotica?
It's a oh, what's his name?
I feel like it sounds really familiar.
It's an Adam McGoyan movie. It's about like a strip club. That's how my little adolescent brain remembers it anyway.
That's the one where you plug something into your head? No, that's a different one.
No. Oh, you're trying to think of Videodrome?
No, Exotica.
Oh, Exotica. No, it's nothing sci-fi like.
I think I know what you're talking about. You're thinking of the one with the bone guns. What was it called? It's got Blast. What was that movie called? One with the bone guns.
He also says go watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Jamil will be happy to hear that. I don't really like that movie.
It's a great film. What are you talking about?
That's a very good Ontario. A very good Ontario film.
And he also says check out Clear Cut. Everyone should go check that one out. It's free on like one of those Tubi ones or whatever. And Graham Greene, in his favorite role ever that he's ever played, plays a super menacing, like basically demon. He's sort of like a demon entity.
Oh, just go for a video rental theme. Just say, I shout out to Hoopla. If you guys don't have Hoopla through your local library, get Hoopla because I got to watch 2 out of these 3 movies for free.
I have Hoopla.
Hoopla is great.
Hoopla is great.
Existence was the movie I was thinking of with the
Existence? Yeah, probably that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
I would not have suggested Existence.
Yeah,
I mean, that is directed by David Cronenberg. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the weird umbilical cord one. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. It's like, is this aliens? Does it want to be aliens? I don't know. It was weird.
Does it want to be Johnny Mnemonic?
Yeah, and Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah, the Lawnmower Man. Those ones.
Yeah.
I can't watch. I don't watch David Cronenberg stuff. That his whole shtick is like the things that creep me out the most, like body morph. Ooh, can't take it. Do not like it.
Naked Lunch. Fair enough. Well, let's get out of here, shall we?
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for bringing the Ontario flavor that we needed for this episode. Murphy's got a little bit of that flavor, but I don't have any of that. So
you say a boot more than I do, or at least it's closer to boot than I do. So I guess maybe that makes you more Ontario than me.
Me? Do I say a boot? Jeez.
Well, I'm saying it sounds closer. Sounds closer than I do from Ontario.
Yeah, yeah. You probably say about.
I'm very weird because I had 4 years in the States as a kid, so I kind of my pronunciation kind of goes back. Like I still my sorry goes back and forth. Sorry.
Well, you know what, guys? Let's get into the car and get out of here. Right. Bye, everyone. We'll be back next month. I don't know if we're doing cartoons or we might be doing Quebec. We'll figure it out, but we'll be back. Till next time.
No, we're gonna do East Coast. We already booked Heather.
Is it East Coast? Is it?
Oops, sorry.
Wait, is it April? You said April. It was Heather. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. All right. So yeah, we're going East Coast. I picked Maud. It should be fun.
Yeah.
Come join us and find out if these movies hold up, and
maybe I'll pick Hobo with a Shotgun because I've never seen it.
You what? Oh, Hobo with a Shotgun is absolutely must. I would have picked Hobo with a Shotgun, but I felt like maybe that was too obvious, and I've seen it a bunch.
I've never seen it, so maybe I'll pick it.
Oh, you have to pick. If you're not, then okay, that's all right. Until then, enjoy the movie.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.